All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights, except of course it is a this week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and today we are going over each and every fight from UFC 329, McGregor versus Holloway 2, giving our predictions, and of course to do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend, the Ohio player, smacking up old men in bars around the world, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
I'm very, very good. Obviously, we did not have fights last Saturday because we have great things to talk about for this Saturday coming up. But tonight's Monday and we got some fights to talk about. So I'm very, very excited to be here. Thank you, Thinker.
Absolutely. As am I excited to be talking about all of these fights. Of course, it is the return of Conor McGregor. And as a little bit of a primer for this big return for Conor, we have been doing our review of the McGregor Forever docuseries from Netflix. Episodes 1 and 2 are out already on the channel in stream form. Both of our channels. You can check those out on either. And of course, we are going to be doing episodes 3 and 4 later this week, right, Chase?
Absolutely. So you guys make sure to catch up because what I will say, just as a quick side bit, if you guys didn't see it or you did, it is a really good refresher considering he didn't make his return the last time. So we get the most updated fight information when it comes to the most previous bouts and how his camps went kind of deal. And, what are some current things that could, still be lingering. We get all that information. It is a very good watch. Of course, if you're a Conor McGregor fan, even if you're not and you want to hate watch it, we can certainly talk more about it later. But episode 3 and 4, of course, we are aiming for Thursday as of right now. So make sure to get your watch of 1 and 2 done, watch the podcast, and then get ready for episode 3 and 4.
Absolutely. It's a good time had by all, I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, before we get into the UFC card here, of course, any other fights that need to be discussed?
Yes, absolutely. So on Friday morning, actually, right after the podcast, I believe because we did a podcast on Thursday night. That's correct when we did the McGregor thing. So
Sure.
I got off there and I said, "Let me see what time I got to wake up for one." And they did not have a live event upcoming for this Friday, and I was like, "That's interesting. What's going on with that? Why is there no event?" So I woke up in the morning and Frank had sent an image that said the inner circle had been canceled in my mind at that time. I'm like, oh, why did Friday fights get canceled? What is this? What happened? Why did this get canceled? But there was no Friday fights. It was just an inner circle that got canceled. But I would still like to say, I don't know why. And I'm still wondering, did they try to do an event where it was like, all right, no Friday fights and we're just doing inner circle. Let's see who shows up finally. And that's gonna be the new wave. And then not many people were expected to show up to the arena or something. But it seems so weird that you would have a bout scheduled for like 4 or 5 people, even a main event, a title fight. These are your fan favorites. This is the inner circle, and
Sure.
they're just up and canceled. And I'm very confused. I never even saw one article about it. Nobody posted anything about this that I know of. So, what do you think?
I mean, that is an interesting element of the inner circle in and of itself, right? I mean, like if it is an abbreviated card, because it is only usually about like 3, 4, 5 fights, right?
Yeah, 4 to 5 is what I've seen. Never three.
So okay, so yeah, 4 to 5. Either way, still the number makes sense for the thought. I mean, the fact that you have such a small card, it's like if it is its own event, a standalone feature to whatever else is going on, and you drop 1 or 2 fights, like for whatever reason, a fighter gets injured, sickness, whatever, whatever the reason may be that something gets canceled, you have more than one of those. You basically have to down the whole thing. You're not going to be charging people for 3 fights. I mean, like you can try to, but like who's going to be happy about that?
Yeah, that is pretty crazy to think about. It's a main event, but you're the third fight on the card, and there's only 3 fights on the card, and then there's nothing after. So I guess that is potential. Somebody got sick on one end and they ended up with 4 bouts, and they're like, this is not good enough. But I don't know. It seemed very weird because again, I keep up with one on Friday very religiously, especially in the mornings. This is one of the few times that I was expecting to get up and there was no Friday fights, but there was inner circle. And then we don't get the inner circle. And I'm just like, this seemed like a test here. This seemed like they really wanted to see if that paywall was going to stick with people. And they were going to jump in this morning to get their fix on Friday morning and or even the locals. Let's see if we're going to get enough people to show up to it because this is a big thing for they all show up for their fights. Friday fights, inner circle, no matter what. But if they're only there for 5 fights, well, maybe they don't wake up till later. Maybe they show up for the later fight. I don't know what the the actual, I mean, obviously it's nighttime for them, but I don't know the stipulations here of why this could have been canceled or why it would have been. But it is fun to imagine with all the interesting elements over at One Championship.
Yeah, I guess, and that's what we're gonna have to keep an eye on is how things progress at one, and maybe we'll get more answers as time goes on. You know.
What I'm hoping for is no more Inner Circle starting next week because I do not like it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the inner circle, I like that you have all of your star fighters in one place, but if it's paywalled and it's in the more, I mean, that the time is really the issue. We talked about this last week, I think. I'm saying that it's not the fact that it's paywalled that is annoying, of course. I mean, it'd be much nicer to not have to pay for the fights. I always try to pay for the fights. I don't mind paying for the fights. It's the time. You're cutting out all of North America with this, basically.
Bro, they have a partnership with Amazon and they just choose to have their own streaming service. I'm like, I could
Amazing.
be watching the Inner Circle fights. I literally have seen the people that are on the Inner Circle. I've seen them on Friday fights and I've seen them on the actual one cards at night. And now I have to just pay to see them all of a sudden. What is this corporate shit going on around here, guys? I don't like it. Like,
Very strange. Yeah, no, I don't get it either, but One Championship has a plan, I'm sure. So,
uh, they've had plans before, and I heard that they were not working out too well for them. And I'm a big
true.
fan, guys. So figure it out because this is not for me. This is not
Yeah.
for me.
Well, they're trying to figure out ways to recoup their losses from Beast, I think.
Well, God damn. Yeah. Yeah. And the
Either way.
Furious, maybe. Who knows what they had intentions with there? Who knows what they were able to pull with that one? I don't know. Joe Taslim, is that his name? He's awesome. Love him.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if they were involved in that movie, but so
Close enough.
exactly fair enough. And so along those lines, I did want to mention. So we did a couple of watch alongs, not anything super crazy, but we do Muay Thai Sundays around here on the Yama channel, and that was what I wanted to bring up. So on last the Sunday yesterday, last night. We did Muay Thai Sunday. It was the replay watch along of the RWS card from Saturday, and fine card. Everything was real good. The what we call the banger fight. So like they have the main event fight is usually a title fight or some prestigious fight, and then they have one more fight at the end. We call that the banger fight.
Yeah.
In the banger fight, a dude named Kupayak got a beautiful win. Somewhere in the mix, I ended up mistaking the fighters. I don't know how I got switched around. Maybe a graphic threw me off. I don't
Mhm.
know what it was that
It
because
happens.
I was so yeah, I was so locked in, and I went on a bit of a tirade about the judges and like how upset I was about thinking that things had gone wrong. Once we figured it out that they had all gone correctly, everything was reeled back in. I had to reel it all back in and apologize. But I just wanted to mention here, shout out to Kupayak for a very great win because this guy is like he's beasting. I mean, this dude he's one of these guys that is probably going to be in one at some point, I would think, or just a huge star in RWS. But he's a multiple time champion. He's a stud over there, and I just wanted to make sure that I gave the official apology to the judges over there at RWS. There are a couple of times that they've gotten some wonky, weird calls. Even on that card, there were a couple of weird splits on some rounds and all that. But overall, they do a very fine job, and they did not deserve the ire that I was mistakenly giving them. So I just wanted to make that little announcement there and tell everybody that if you are not aware of Muay Thai Sundays, every Sunday we're usually watching Muay Thai on the channel in the evening. So come on and hang out with your boy. You got Chase on Friday mornings, you got Thinker on Sunday evenings with Muay Thai action.
That is absolutely good because I love to hear a misinterpretation of what's happening. That's always my favorite thing is when I get really mad and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, time out. I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong. And then it's funny too because I can imagine. It depends on how long it takes for you to realize, of course, because that could be a really big clip, and they're like they watch 3 minutes of it, and they're like, "Damn, we really don't know what we did wrong." And then like the last 30 seconds, it's like, "Hold on, guys, my bad.
That
I
was
fucked up."
that was why I had to make the correction here is because it went on for way too long. Like I'm still trying to figure out exactly what threw me off because
Mm.
generally I'm paying pretty close attention trying to make sure I get that right. But I am human as everyone else is, and I make mistakes. So egg on
No,
my face.
that is very good. I'm glad you brought it up. Not good that it happened, but it's good that you were able to correct yourself. Obviously, Thank you, RWS, for tuning into the podcast. There's Thinker's Apology. You just got it right there. But there's actually one more thing that I wanted to note, and this might actually be a lengthier discussion. So I actually did one more rewatch over the weekend. On Saturday, I rewatched UFC 202 because it was streaming
Yes.
on the UFC's YouTube channel.
Absolutely. I was there for a little bit of that. I was very glad that you were doing that.
Yeah, listen, it was a grandiose time. There's a few things that I would like to touch on about this, just because we're not going to get any other moment for it. And some of them we'll save to later because it obviously has to do with some of the fights that are going on here. But so the first thing to note, I missed this fight, but this would have been crazy to see. Marvin Vettori's submission was the first fight of the night here. This dude got a finish. Holy shit. Okay. Second, we get Colby Covington pre, or like the Trump shit kind of deal. This was pretty good. He beat up Max Griffin, third round TKO. Interesting. And then this is really interesting on the prelims. Early prelims, you have Neil Magny. And Neil Magny, of course, did exactly what Neil Magny does. He gets finished in the first round, no big deal. But this guy named Lorenz Larkin, are you familiar?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Where is he? What happened?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd have to go back and look at the record, but I definitely remember the
It's
name.
18-6.
Some people just end up going off to do other things, I guess, maybe.
Well,
I don't know.
it's pretty crazy because just him specifically, like when I watched it, bro, like, do you remember any fights of his specifically? Like, do you remember this anything? Dude, he does an oblique kick to their chest. He like sat Neil Magny down like four times with an oblique kick that almost caught him in the face. It was like crazy power on it too. I was like, this was like the most unique thing that I've seen for a fighter, and I'm like, holy shit, you have gold right here, brother. And he looked like he was a monster in this. Obviously, it's Neil Magny, but like a lot of people finish Neil Magny and they look pretty good. They give Neil Magny to people who are pretty good, So
Well, there you go. Future video concept for you. What happened to Lorenz Larkin? You can get yourself, write a little script for yourself and do the research.
absolutely. And then so we obviously got to move a little down the line here. So here we have another one. Okay, so we have, and wow, looking at the records of how they ended up, I can see why they're not around, of course. But we have Randa Marcos,
Sure.
a red-haired Canadian girl, not Jillian Robertson, and then we have Courtney Casey. Wow, for a girl who was 10-10 at the time, she had 5 first round finishes, and then she finished Randa in the first round. So she ended up with 6 first round finishes. Of course, she had 3 losses at the time. She's now 10-10, but I still question what happened. She was looking like gold right here, guys. So Courtney Casey.
Was she
Hear me
the
out.
blonde haired girl?
She's not blonde.
Oh no,
At
okay.
least not in her picture here. I don't. Maybe
Gotcha. Yeah,
no. She's a brunette.
okay. I remember the name, but I don't. I'm trying to place her. But either way, nice.
Next one, Artem Lobov. I actually got to see this dude fight
The
against
goat.
Chris Avila. I'm not familiar with his game too much. A Diaz gang kind of deal, Diaz army, and he lost. But Artem Lobov is. I could have went not seeing him fight. To be fair, what I will say to this though, and this goes into obviously Conor McGregor and the McGregor forever thing. Finding out that Artem Lobov was born in Russia, I didn't know this. Like that does make a little more sense to the Habib situation. Like it wasn't just I'm gonna punk McGregor's pal. Like it was like you know Dagestan, Russia kind of beef kind of going on there. I think so that added a new layer to the element. I'm like, oh, he's Russian. Like they were bullying the Russian guy. It wasn't anything to do with Connor at the time. Connor just happened, again, as we spoke about. He just happened to set all this thing off over somebody who really didn't really end up being that pivotal into his life further on.
Well, I mean, pivotal, and then ended up being a big fallout. He was pivotal
Correct.
in the proper 12, deal there. I mean, he apparently that was his whole claim to why
Yes.
it all went down the way that it did. Gave him the idea and all that. Strange, which is a strange thing to me. It's like you tell your friend, "Hey, man, it'd really be cool if you started a liquor brand." They do that, and then all of a sudden, it's like, "Yeah, that was my idea." Well, I mean, how much did you actually contribute to that? I don't know.
Thinker, you should start a podcast for two dudes talk about MMA. Really,
True,
seriously.
exactly. Well, see, I think that at least you end up you're on it. So it's like I don't know if somebody did tell me that, and then like they come out of the woodwork now later on asking for a piece of it. That'll be the true test if the court ends up giving it to them.
Hell yeah. Okay, so next, Raquel Pennington. Guys, this one really had a lot of hits on it for people that are not necessarily around anymore, but like could be in the mix if they just got their head in the game, So Raquel Pennington, she came in here with a snoozer. I mean, who's surprised? I'm not gonna lie, but she came in with a third round decision against Miss Elizabeth Phillips. Are you familiar?
No, that must have been one that came and went.
Baddie, certified baddie, like
Nice.
Mackenzie Dern level, like seriously.
Oh,
But all right, next we had Cody Garbrandt, of course, and this was in the height of his thing, like this was Cody Garbrandt right before he faced Dominic Cruz, I believe. Actually, well, he did the call out after the fight. So I would assume that happened next, but if he had to fight some other people, that's a different story. But he got a first round knockout. This was the invincible Cody Garbrandt. Obviously, coming into this weekend, they knew what they were doing with this card, guys. Like this is they pieced it all together.
yeah. The
It's
old is new. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you watched this old event over here. Wait, what'd you say the number? This was 299
202.
or 202. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, that was even farther back. Yeah.
So yes, Cody Garbrandt gets a 48-second knockout. Again, at bantamweight, this was a big thing at the time, and then he calls out Dominic Cruz, and you guys know how this goes. You know how the history went. So that was a really cool thing to see. Cody Garbrandt, with his cockiness, before it really bit him in the ass. So it was interesting. So that was awesome. Next, now this one we could obviously have a whole discussion about, but strictly in the cage business. I've seen this fight already, and this was actually the fight that made me realize that this person had some type of skill in the cage, and he wasn't just some bum. When I saw him, he was old, and I was like, "Damn, who is this guy?" Tim Means versus Sabah Hamasi. Very good performance by Tim Mean. The Dirty Bird really kind of lived up to his name right here. I really appreciated this performance. I do not appreciate or condone anything he has done outside of the cage.
True.
That's no, that's a no. But either way, so we'll move on from that. Next, this one is crazy. This one is crazy. This next fight, you get a welterweight debut for Mike Perry. 9
Hey.
coming in here facing, dude, he was facing this Korean guy, right? Let me double check. Korean, of course. And he's 6'3". Think about this, a welterweight from Korea that is 6'3" is unheard of. And I was like, holy shit, this dude should have been really cool. He just unfortunately went against platinum Mike Perry, who gets the first round knockout. I think he had nine knockouts all in the first round at this point. He gets another one, so he was 10-0. This was a really fun fight because he knocked him down, he got back up, he knocked him down again, he got back up, and dude, Mike Perry was
Yeah.
and the mic skills, dude. Mike Perry, you're looking at the boulder right before it gets chiseled, and now what you see, platinum Mike Perry, but before he was just platinum Mike Perry. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like I didn't even know he had the nickname at the time, but it didn't even mean anything. But now you know what that means. This dude is a star
Yeah.
for real.
He's king of violence, Mike Perry. Now he's gone on to the ascending the mountain.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know why this page closed. I'm sorry. Yes, and then next after we had Mike Perry, we got Rick the Horror Story, which is one of the greatest nicknames of all time. Let's be real, guys. So let's give a round of applause. Okay, and he goes against Donald Cerrone, and this was again going back to what we've seen in the McGregor forever. That was a Cerrone of the old. This is a Cerrone that had it. This was a really deadly Cerrone on the feet. He really just walked forward and he threw a variety of powerful strikes, and not just strikes that were gonna hurt. He was throwing elbows, he's throwing body kicks, things that are gonna stop a fighter from wanting to continue when he starts to bleed, when his body starts to fucking whittle away, when he can't, whatever. This was a great Donald Cerrone performance. This is like the highlight that he always has, where he does the little 4-piece combo, kicks him in the head, finishes him. I think Herb Dean was the fucking ref. It was awesome, guys. It was classic. So love it, Donald Cerrone. Shout out the Cowboy, of course. And
Hell
then this is where I got really upset. I got really upset because I'm watching this on a YouTube stream. I'm having no other issues for the first time ever. My stream's working. I got the fights on. And so the fight starts between Rumble Johnson and Glover Teixeira. I did not know that it was only going to be 18 seconds of a fight. I had missed it by then. I had to catch it in the replay. But damn, I had always heard, sorry, it was 13 seconds. 13 seconds. My bad. I had always heard that Rumble Johnson was one of the more powerful strikers. People don't call out Rumble. Glover did call him out, kind of deal. And this is really what could happen. I really can't believe that that he made it look so easy against a dude I've seen get battered. And I'm telling you, Glover, that dude is not a fucking bum, guys. That dude is tough, and for him to just get completely colded like that is absolutely crazy. In 13 seconds, of course. And then we got the main event, which we'll talk a little bit about later. We have Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor, and this one, if you want to make it controversial early, listen. Conor McGregor lost to Nate Diaz in the second fight. We don't even need a trilogy. It's 2-0, everybody. So
Yeah, this is I was on your stream while you were watching this, and I specifically did not say anything about the outcome of the fight, not knowing if you had seen it or not before.
I
Um,
swear I have, and I kind of forgot that. Like I was sitting here thinking, I was like, yeah, he finished Nate in the rematch. Maybe I just assumed like, oh, he won, so he finished him. But like I watched it and I'm like, how's he gonna get this finish? He's walking away from Nate Diaz for 3 rounds now. Like I cannot believe it. Yeah, he dropped him in 1 and 3, cool. But he did fuck all for the other 3. Like I can't believe they really gave majority decision on this, brother.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I remember watching it live and feeling that exact same way. I was like, he did not win that fight to me, but whatever. I was one of those things where I was like, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I didn't see it well enough or whatever. So I was glad to get a fresh perspective on it to confirm what I had known and thought, for many years.
Yeah. So, and of course, Sam, rest in peace to Anthony Johnson, of course. Rumble Johnson,
Absolutely.
rest in peace. It's an unfortunate thing. I didn't get to experience any of that era, of Rumble, of course. And seeing that fight, he did seem like a pretty cool dude. After his post fight speech, he seemed really, a person who's happy about life. So that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, well, and also what I always sadly have to caveat is he did have some allegations against him, so he is one of those
Gotcha.
figures that is a little bit has just that slight little tinge of controversy. Although since I don't know all the details, I always want to give the benefit of the doubt because he is such a beloved figure in the sport. So
Yeah.
either way, though, I mean, thank you very much, Chase, for the history lesson here. A little primer on UFC 202. That is a nice way to enter into this card. Of course, a McGregor headlined card, then a McGregor headlined card now. Just the over under on whether he's going to show up to this one is still up in the air. We'll find out this week, of course. But unless there is anything else, I guess we can get into this. Hey.
I mean, over unders, if you guys want to know, to go on Polymarket or Kashi, whatever you can do, take the over, or if McGregor is too late to press conferences on there, just fucking hammer it. He's never going to be on time, guys. Just there you go. There's your key for the week.
Yeah, well, and people have been speculating as to whether he's going to show up to this fight or not, based on other fights in the past. And I mean, based on what we've been seeing, we'll talk about this, of course, when we get to the main event. But based on what we've been seeing, it does seem like he's taking the camp very seriously, and that's great. But also, what we have found out from the McGregor Forever documentary is that he is a dude who gets injured in camp. So I mean, this has happened before too. It's always suspenseful when it comes to Conor McGregor.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to talk about everything, including more in this week's card. So, Thinker, are we excited to get into it? Actually, first, we got to
Yes,
shout out the chat. We got to
that
shout
was
out the
what I
chat.
was going to say. Of course, please do.
Well, first off, Bleeding Edge, Team USA, I did hear they lost to the Waffle Makers. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Shout out soccer to somebody out there watching it. Meat Rocket, of course, we are screaming about mixed martial arts. Actually, sorry,
Always.
just martial arts. America getting thumped in soccer. Lachlan, yes, we heard. It's okay. And then Sam, appreciate you. Sam, you're awesome. And Carlos, love you.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for being here with your boys on a Monday night. Let's get into this thing. It's UFC 329. It's McGregor. It's Holloway. It's the rematch going down at the T-Mobile Arena. That's in Las Vegas, Nevada, of course. We are going to get this card started with the first fight of the evening all the way down here. Now, of course, Ode Osborne was supposed to be in this fight. He is out of this fight. Now this fight is between Alessandro Costa and everyone's favorite, Cody Durden. So, as I said, Ode Osborne, write him off. He is no longer in this fight. Is Alessandro Costa stepping in on shortish notice? Costa is 16-5. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Matt Schnell, Stuart Nickel, and Kevin Borjas, all by knockout. His losses are to Alden Correa by knockout and Steve Urseg by unanimous decision. He has 7 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out 3 times. He has 6 wins by sub, never been submitted. Literally a candy cane record for Costa in the UFC, aside from the 2-fight win streak that he is on currently. As far as Cody Durden, Durden is 18-10-1. He is 1-4 in his last 5. His win is over Jafel Filio by unanimous decision. His losses are to Naim Jargal, Tumen Dembarel by unanimous decision, Alan Nascimento by sub, Jose Ochoa by knockout, and Joshua Van by unanimous decision. He has 6 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out twice. 6 wins by sub. He has been submitted 5 times. He has fought 3 times a year for the last 4 years, except for 2025. So 2022, 2023, and 2024, he has fought 3 times. This will be his 3rd fight of 2026. He could potentially make it 4, depending on how this goes. So that being said, Chase, what are you thinking here?
This one, out of all the fights on here, again, this was short notice, so I really haven't had time to really process it too much. Like, as I'm looking at it right now, I'm like, oh yeah, that is the bout that's happening first. Costa, I mean, the finishes that he's had, obviously, I've had something to say about a few of them, but that's fine. Or one of them specifically, I guess is the better way to say it, but that's fine. The record doesn't necessarily make me think he's as good as a lot of people that Cody Durden has faced. But the fact of the matter is, I mean, you want to talk about 4-1 in his last 5. I mean, that's separated by a submission win over Matt Schnell, which clearly was that's a given right there. You're going to beat Matt Schnell one way or the other. But then before that, he had gotten finished by Bruno Silva and then also finished by Tagir Ulanbekov. So he is not very good in the last 9 fights. He's only won 2. So statistically, I don't know if you can take Cody Durden and like, unless you're just a diehard fan and you really think this is the play. I mean, I get having a hunch, but statistically, I really don't know if I should be thinking he's going to win, because he's not beating Niam Jargel. He's not beating this guy, that guy. Costa really fits in with a guy like, kind of guys like that. I mean, I don't know here. Costa, I feel bad that I really think that he can finish Durden, but I really think that he might let me down here. Cody Durden is tough, but he can be finished. But Costa's finishes, really, these are like some, I get the early stoppage, or I get the thing kind of. So is Durden potentially could have that happen to him. I mean, he's liable to just get flatlined and then the ref steps in kind of deal, and that doesn't give him an opportunity. But he's 2-9 or 2-7 in the last 9. I don't really know what else to say on that one, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, going through the research here, what I saw, and like you said, I mean, not every one of these wins is like a high quality finish necessarily when it comes to Costa. However, you do see that he has 7 wins by knockout. He's got 6 wins by sub. And if you go to the Durden side, I just listed off those last 4 losses, unanimous decision losses to 2 of them, sub loss in 1, knockout in the other. So it's like you got a guy who can be finished in a number of different ways going up against a guy who can finish in a number of different ways. I mean, now, is that how it's all going to play out with the guy coming in on short notice? That, I guess, is also part of the equation with this. Although it's not the shortest of notice, right? I mean, this has been on the books for a little while now. I mean, it's on the books long enough for them to have updated it on ESPN over here. So, I would say that there is potential for Costa to do what he does and find the victory somehow. Whether it's assisted by the referees or not, these are the questions. But Durden, like you said, it's too hard to put your chips on him. I really feel like Durden gets booked because he is always picking up the phone often. Like I said, he's fought 3 times a year, except for 2025 for the last 4. You would think that after a certain number of losses that would be signaling to the organization that they might want to slow him down or, do something else with him. But it just seems like the opposite. So they just keep throwing him back in the fire. He keeps ending up, getting it or not getting it. I mean, he's riding high off of victory now. But, how long does that keep up, I guess?
Here's my thing. Okay, Costa trains with Diego Lopez. That's already a really good game planner right there. When it comes to setting up your teammates for success, I think Diego is obviously one of the best, right behind Robert Valentin. But the point here is Cody Durden beat Jafel Filo. That was his big win. I was the big dog. I was on a big losing streak and I came out and won. Filo looked absolutely horrible, like absolutely horrible in that fight. And then the another thing about Durden as well, Alan Nascimento submitted him. Now, I'm not trying to compare Costa's grappling to Alan Nascimento, but I have seen Alan Nascimento go for chokes on Jafel Filo, and that dude's got a long ass neck, and he had so much air in between his chokes. It was just no way he was going to finish. Now, Javel is obviously a black belt or whatever. He's a very good grappler as well. But brother, you had his neck. You just didn't have the strength to do. So that's my point about Alan Nascimento. But if he's finishing Cody Durden, I think Costa probably has a pretty good chance of getting that submission. Just, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, and being faster, I would say, on the feet a little bit, being lighter on the feet, probably being able to get out of the way of any of the striking that Durden does. Durden's one of those dudes that like kind of likes to sometimes masquerade as something that he's not. I mean, this is really a wrestler at heart, for the most part, I would say, beyond the striking ability. Sometimes he gets a little bit too deep in the striking, and sometimes it works out for him, sometimes it bites him in the ass. I mean, he looked a little bit better in the striking in the last fight to kind of make it convincing that he was winning, even with Jafel not looking so great. I think that Costa just has a better, like, more well-rounded kind of approach. He just sort of looks the part a little bit better at times, and being able to be evasive at the right times is going to be effective for him. It seems to me that he is going to be able to play the outside when he needs to, get in, get his shots, and then if he has the openings on the ground, capitalize on that in a way that Durden might not be able to.
I think the last thing that I'll say is it's not normally do I think that I normally don't think that fighters from the Australia or New Zealand region are like not very tough. Like it's very rare. So
Mhm.
Stuart Nickel getting dropped by a body shot, from Costa, he must have a pretty like impactful punch. Obviously, he's knocked people down. Matt Schnell's different story, but he's gotten knockouts before. But I think the body shot to make Stuart Nickel not continue. I think that might be a better indication as if Cody Durden gets touched by a punch that Costa really sits back on. I mean, he just might not get up from it. So I think I'm going to go with Costa, and I think I'm going to take him by finish. I don't know if I want to put my life on knockout or KO, or I'm sorry, knockout or submission, but he can do it either way. So just I would be safe there.
Yeah, exactly. I also am going with Costa on this one. I think that the finish might be likely if it does end up getting kind of like dragged out, and Durden shows some toughness, then maybe he ends up just doing it by UD. But either like that's why I'm like I don't necessarily want to go so deep into that part. But Costa by winning the fight is going to be my on the money line.
I actually think you're cooking. I would love for him. I think it's possible for him to win by finish. What do I think is likely? Well, I've not really been big on him. I normally like to think that if I'm a big fan of you, you're probably a dude that can do what I'm thinking you'll do. Costa, on the other hand, he's probably gonna let me down. He probably ain't gonna finish, bro. He probably will
He's
get a
on a short
decision.
notice. It's short
Yeah,
notice, call up, coming in, not maybe as sharp as he might have been if it had
I
been
think
full
he was
camp.
actually the one with the camp. Cody was the one who. No, you may be
No,
right. It
yeah,
was Cody
no,
and Ode. You're right. You're right.
yeah. So I mean, either way, it's like I think that that he has enough of the natural ability to be able to get the win. Does he get the finish?
I think another question before we move on, of course, is
Sure.
it depends on how conservative he is. Is he gonna take short notice and he's like, all right, I just gotta skate by the decision. I gotta just get the win. I'm not really here to risk too much because if I lose on short notice with where I've already I just coming off a knockout win. If I come in here and get starched early, then I'm looking like a fool for taking this fight. So I don't. Maybe he will try to play the long game and just kind of hold on to him, wrestle him, control him. It's the first fight of the night, so you got to assume that they want them to bang.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is kind of what I had in the note there when I was saying he's literal candy cane, win loss, except for where he is right now. He's on a 2-fight win streak right now. This would be a nice way to extend that into a 3-fight win streak. Of course, I mean that would be a lot better than what he's been doing in the UFC as far as this win loss thing. You gotta, if you want to advance, you gotta put the wins together. You gotta string them together. You can't just be back and forth checkerboarding over here. So, if he does end up kind of playing the long game and plays it a little bit more conservative just to make sure he gets the win, probably not the worst, but of course we would like them to go balls to the wall.
I think it's funny before we move on. I think it's funny your note is like, you can't just keep candy caning. It's true in a sense that like that's not a good way to get to the top or where you want to succeed, but it's also the company doesn't care for people who just can consistently kind of break even. They will care for the people like Cody Durden who consistently will lose fights by finish rather than the people who can maybe win one and chip away two and lose one. No, they'll keep Tai Tuivasa who's on a 7-fight lose streak. Like,
Yeah, no, you make a good point, and this is another reason why Cody Durden is a bit of an anomaly in this regard. Is that it's like the real thing that the company wants is exciting fights. They don't really
correct.
care as much about the wins or the losses. Cody Durden with 4 of those losses. Can you tell me that any of these other fights were super exciting? I mean, granted, getting knocked out by Jose Ochoa. Okay, there's a knockout
It was
involved.
good.
Sub by Alan Nascimento. Sure,
That was
fine.
bad on the matchmakers. That was not going to be a star-studded matchup right there, I
But
think.
to
But
then say,
continue.
I mean, we're talking about, I mean, the UD loss to Josh Van. I mean, look, Josh Van is the man, and we know that. But I wouldn't say that it was the greatest, the greatest fight of all time. And then the Tumen Dembrell fight. I mean, it was fine to see what he was capable of. But again, I wouldn't say that this was the greatest fight of all time. So you got a dude who's losing all of these fights. They're not necessarily these like fights that stand out in your mind as like the greatest flyweight fights of all time. So big make them up. You know what? Alessandro Costa, do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, facts. Yep. But either
All
way,
right.
yeah, so we're both taking Costa.
Yes, indeed,
All
we
right.
are both taking Costa. So
It's
that
locked in.
it is locked in. Before we move on, did want to give a big shout out to Fishing with Jay. Appreciate you, brother. Fishing with Jay is a local Florida fighter who was fighting on the Island Fights card that I was watching just recently. I don't remember, but apparently I didn't have the kindest things to say. But as I said in the comment that I made back, appreciate you for fighting. Respect for always for making the walk. Keep doing what you do. And the next fight that I watch of yours will be better, I'm sure.
Hell yeah, fishing with Jay. I appreciate you, bro.
Love the username. All right. Moving on to the next fight of the evening here. Ryan Gandra is fighting Zachary Reese. Gandra is 9-1. He is 1-0 in the UFC after a knockout win on the Contender Series. He has 6 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out 1 time. 1 win by submission. He has never been submitted. He is currently on an 8-fight win streak, a 5-fight finish streak, and a 4-fight knockout streak. So parse that all in your mind. Zachary Reese is 10-3. He is 2-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Jackson McVeigh by sub and Dushko Todorovic by unanimous decision. His losses are to Michelle Pejeda by split decision and Azamat Bekoev by knockout. His no contest was with Cedricus Dumas. He has 5 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out twice. He has 3 wins by submission and has never been submitted.
Well, this one is unfortunate because I feel like Zachary Reese has definitely had a little bit of a journey. When he first started, I really didn't even know who he was until I remembered, oh, wait, that's the guy who got slammed by fucking Cody Brundage. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to give him a chance. He's got a good frame, 6'4", he's real skinny, he's real active, he's wire strong, country strength Texas kind of guy, right? And
Sure.
I feel like it's an unfortunate story that he hasn't really panned out to be somebody that I could totally have my chips in kind of deal because he's a guy who risks it. I give him that. He goes for it in the first round and obviously he can carry it through the later, but the first round is really where this is going to happen. If he walks up to Ryan Gandra thinking he's going to just smash him up, Ryan Gandra might just crack him. Zachary Reese is a dude who has spoke to me as a vulnerable fighter. He gets hit. His last fight, dude, his face was fucking purple. Like he was getting beat up, and it wasn't even the worst beating. But Ryan Gandra, listen, this guy put Jose Medina down. I don't know what to tell you guys. That was his debut in the organization. You didn't mention that. You didn't mention
Oh,
that thinker.
apologies. I'm sorry. I was going to go look that up actually. Yes, Jose Medina is the win that he has in the UFC.
So he starts, bro. I mean, Zachary Reese, you're gonna have to have a very defensive game plan early. Obviously, this is somebody who has a lot of knockouts in the first round. He's not a very. What did you say? He's been to decision before? Do we
Uh,
know?
he has been to decision, I believe, 1
Okay.
time.
Oh, actually, 2 times. I mean,
2
a five
times.
round
Okay.
five round belt in his pro debut. Apparently, I don't know. And then, yeah, and then he has a unanimous decision win as well. But the point is okay. So he may be able to go a little longer, but Zachary Reese is going to have to just be very defensive, I think and it's just not something that I've seen in his game that he's picked up yet. He's still getting touched. He unfortunately has the tall man defense where he just puts his head back and he Ryan Gandra might just drop a huge bomb on him, man. I don't know.
Well, that's really where I'm coming from with this fight. I mean, if you recall the Jose Medina fight, Gandra walked right up to him and just started unloading shots on this dude. And Medina, we were saying before this fight, Medina was, one tough punching bag. He had the Felicia Spencer syndrome, as I call
Mhm.
it. You go in there and you can take a lot of shots, but that doesn't win you a fight. It just makes you a really tough target, to just pound on. And that is really what Ryan Gandra proved is, he was able to overcome because he came in here and just swarmed him, starched him with some, a crazy flurry early in that fight. And I mean, I don't know if that's, it reminds me of like a Brando Perisic, where I don't know how long they're going to be able to just do that forever.
Right.
I think that like that's one of those things that ends up getting figured out. Especially as you get up to some of these higher level guys, middleweight. I'm sure there are going to be plenty of tough guys who are going to be able to weather that storm. Zachary Reese, I mean, like it's like we say, Zachary Reese has his own syndrome. It's Zachary Reese syndrome where he wears damage tremendously apparently. I mean, he wears damage very upfront. And so it's like, even if he doesn't get knocked out immediately, he's going to be looking the part of a dude who's been beat up. And, the longer that goes on, the worse that gets. Now, could he be landing on Gandra? I mean, he's going to have to, like you say, be very defensively sound early in the fight to be able to get to the point of him even gassing slightly so he can start getting his own offense off. That's really, I think, what it's going to be. If Zachary Reese can get out of round one, there might be a shot for him later in this fight, but he's going to have a lot to deal with in round one.
Okay. I've decided because
Uh-oh.
listen, Ryan Gandra, I doubted him the first time. Obviously, taking Jose Medina, whatever, meme or not, Ryan Gandra beat up a guy we knew he was going to knock out. Like that was almost the inevitable. He was going to beat up on a dude until he was unable to continue. That doesn't scream to me as somebody that, all right, I have to put my chips into this guy now. Now, Zachary Reese, on the other hand, he's experienced. He's got plenty of experience by now. He's faced not the greatest people. I mean, you got people like fucking Cedricus Dumas that he got a no contest with, and then Michelle Pereira. We know that. Think about that dude just went to a co-main event after that. Oh my god, and
Atrocious.
arguably lost.
Yeah.
And so Zachary Reese, I'm I'm thinking he's going to take him down in the first round. That's really what it comes down to. If Zachary Reese is able to take him down, because again, this is mixed martial arts. Zachary Reese, he speaks to me as a guy who understands that he's not going to go in there and stand and bang with just everybody. He has an ability to take people down. He has submissions. Not going to say he's going to go in here and submit the Brazilian. He gets an out. Gets a waist lock. If Gandra kicks, he catches it, trips him, does something. Zachary Reese is versatile on offense. Mixing in takedowns, I think, is what's going to be key as an experienced person who is, again, you said his record is 2-2-1. You can't keep people like that. You can keep people who are 0-7. You can't keep somebody who's 2-2-2 or whatever, 2-2-1, 2-3-1. You can't do it. So Zachary Reese is fighting for a lot here. You got to make a big statement here. This is a guy with maybe not a lot of hype, but they put him on the pay-per-view card because they want you to be his victim. Think about this. Nobody believes in you, Zachary Reese. Nobody. You got to get this done. I'm going to put my chips in Zachary Reese. I'm taking the experienced fighter, which I've done before, and I've always seen it not work out the greatest, but it's going to be this time. Zachary Reese, let's go.
I like it. I like the thought process, and I want to believe too. However, seeing that Zachary Reese got knocked out by Azamat Bekoev, who's a dude who we know gasses later in fights. You just told me that Ryan Gandra has a 5-rounder that he won. I mean, I think that I'm going to go with Ryan Gandra on this one. I don't, look, I like Zachary Reese, and I think that he is a dude who, probably has more to offer than what 2-2-1 in his last 5 would lead you to believe. But I've seen Gandra come in here and take a dude's head off, a dude who we know is a tough guy to knock out. So, I mean, like, I think that if he's able now, you're right. If he can get him to the ground, that would be great. That would be a great way to extend this fight and to allow him to have a shot later on in the fight. So if that happens, that'll be me kicking myself in round 1, being like, damn, there you go. He did the right thing. but I just don't know. I just don't know if he's going to have that instinct to immediately do that. He didn't go for that with Pereira. Now, I mean, Pereira probably a little bit better on the ground potentially than Gandra, maybe, but we have not seen Gandra in all of his, grappling glory just yet, potentially. So that all being said, there are a lot of question marks with Gandra, but one thing I do know is the power is certainly there. I'm going to lean on that for this fight, even though I hope that Zachary Reese can prove me wrong.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. It'll be a very good fight here. I'm going ahead, taking Zachary Reese. You said you're taking Gandra.
I am, yeah, I
All
think
right.
so. I'm glad that I'm glad to be split on this one, and may the best man win, because like I said, I do like Zachary Reese, and I think that like things like the Cody Brundage slam knockout, I don't think that they tell the story of who he is as a fighter necessarily. I think he's better than what 2-1 would lead you to believe, but it's just been a little bit of a tough journey for him. He is only 10-3 though, so I mean, it's not like this is not the worst record that we've ever seen. Still a little bit newer to the game, even at 32 years old. I mean, like there is potential for him to pull this off in a meaningful way. So power to Zachary Reese, get the job done. But based on what I've seen of Gandra, I'm going with Gandra.
The last thing that I'll make note of is that it's hard sometimes, and I don't always do it. Sometimes you have to pick a fighter who's going to have a very clean fight. Like they're going to have to do everything right to make it go their way. And I think Zachary Reese, if he gets going early, Ryan Gandra went to decision. It's not like these were late knockouts. The power doesn't seem to be there. He went all 5 rounds. I don't know exactly how it looked, but he didn't finish that guy late with punches. So Zachary Reese, get him out the first round, and I think it's a different fight. Obviously, that is where the fight, actually begins, kind of deal.
Well, and that's also kind of goes to a point that I sort of touched on there, is that Zachary Reese wears damage very apparently, and that might have been part of the reason that he lost the split decision to
Yeah.
Pereira. I mean, we all kind of felt that was a little bit of a petty theft at best. I mean, kind of a robbery in that fight, but he did get touched up, and he wears the damage very apparently. So if this does end up going to decision, you're right, he is going to have to fight a very clean fight to be in there looking like he is the fresher fighter at the end of the day, because whether or not it's actually impactful and he's hurt from all of the damage, he wears it nonetheless.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it can be an interesting one. I like this fight.
Yeah, I'm glad we're split.
Yeah, same here. And of course, when we are split, that Chase and I are streaming to our individual channels. So you guys out there who are listening, go to the channel of the person you think has the better takes on these fights and give it a like.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, moving on to the next one here. This is another one that got switched up on us, of course. This is not the fight that is happening here. You see Farid Basharat. He is not fighting Ethan Ewing. Ethan Ewing is out. He is fighting a man named John Garza. So I do have the information here. Of course, ESPN has not been updated. Might be able to go over to Tapology to show you that if you want. Give me a second to do that. But before I do switch over, I'll read all of this off and then let Chase give his thoughts. I'll switch it over. So going into this is Farid Basharat. He is 15-0. He is 5-0 in his last 5. His wins are over Jean Masamoto by split decision, Chris Gutierrez, Victor Hugo, and Taylor Lopoulos, all by unanimous decision, and Clayton Rodriguez by submission. He has 1 win by knockout. He has never been knocked out. He has 6 wins by submission, never been submitted. Garza is 6-1. This is his UFC debut. He has 3 wins by knockout. He has been KO'd once. He has 1 win by sub. He has never been submitted. He is currently on a 5-fight win streak, and he is fighting out of Fury FC.
Well, this one is an interesting one because I do often feel like they have to find somebody to fight him sometimes. I don't know why they make it seem like it is end all be all for Farid Basharat to be on this goddamn card, but they found my boy John Garza, and when I tell you, who the heck is John Garza? Obviously, we have yet to see him debut. It sounds fine. Unfortunately, when I saw the picture of him, and this doesn't tell the whole story, but he's clearly a 125er who is making a short notice 135 bout. He did not look like somebody who carries the frame of a 135, and obviously it's not that big of a difference. But when you look at the side by side comparison of Farid Basharat, it's like, why is he fighting a middle schooler? Like it's like,
That was the big thing. So, when I found out that this was the new matchup, I was on stream and people were telling me about it. And the first thing that they said is that this kid looks like he is fresh out of high school. I mean, he's a very, now look, he might just have a youthful face. I mean, we've had
right.
plenty of people in the organization, the baby face, this, the whatever, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, people who are younger in the face, but that doesn't tell the story of their fighting ability. But he is fighting an undefeated fighter who is UFC caliber. I mean, this is not a great look for a newcomer here necessarily. I mean, props to him. He did step up and take the fight. He took the opportunity that was presented in front of him. This is what they offered him. He gets to skip the line because of it. To think that he is going to show out and spoil the party of a Basharat brother in his debut on short notice seems like a tall order to me. I mean, I don't know. Where's the path to victory here, Chase?
I don't know if there is one for my boy John Garza. I mean, it looks like he's just the lamb. Anything's possible. Obviously, if you go in here with a good mindset, any punch could land, any punch could knock somebody out. But this just looks to me like we're gonna get a Basharat submission. I mean, you said this guy's never been submitted, but he's had seven. What'd you say? 7 bouts. He's 6-1 or whatever.
Yeah, he's 6-1. He's never been submitted. He has 1 win by sub. He's been knocked out 1 time and has 3 knockout wins.
I mean, the knockout I'm not really worried about from Basharat, but I think he's just gonna take bro down and he's just gonna get a submission. I mean, that should be the likely outcome for what Basharat should do. I mean, I think this dude, clearly he's got good grappling. Clearly he can get submissions. You need to go ahead and get this dude out of here. If you come in here and go to 3 rounds with John Garza, I already don't think you're the greatest. I've obviously looked at the record, split decision against Matsumoto, whatever you want to say, cool. But everything else, Chris Gutierrez, Victor Hugo, Clayton Rodriguez, these don't really speak to me as like, oh, you're beating high caliber guys. You deserve the next level. Like, bro, now you're facing a guy who's 6-1 on his debut. You're going to have to do some more, brother. I mean, that's the unfortunate part about this for someone like Basharat. I feel like it's like, yeah, I want to fight, give me a fight. It's like, well, now you're putting yourself in a predicament that you're actually furthering yourself away from where you want to be, because now you fought a dude who's 6-1. That doesn't mean you need to fight a ranked guy now, like that's just.
Yeah, nature of the game, unfortunately. Obviously, Ewing was going to be the much more interesting fight here. I mean, this was going to be, it really should have been the.
That would have been a fight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and obviously Ethan Ewing is the person taking everybody's O's away. So, that would have been another potential for that to be the case here. So we are really getting denied, what we really wanted out of this fight. But Farid was on the card. He obviously still wanted to fight. So they found somebody for him. And again, Garza taking the opportunity. I think he's doing the right thing. Again, I always go back to Ikram Alaskirov taking the call up to fight Robert Whitaker. Obviously, that was not, in hindsight, the right move to take, but you don't say no to opportunities like that in this sport. So the kid's doing the right thing. To think that he's going to be able to come in here against a Basharat who is, like one of the well-rounded guys of the sport, even if he's not the better of the brothers. Think about that. He's 15.
He's the better one.
Farid is the better than Javid?
I'm pretty sure the other one has lost already. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, is that okay? I always get him confused with the other pair.
Well, they are twins. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, they are. But who are the ones? Bonfils. That's I always get those confused with the Bonfim brothers. Fair enough. Okay, well then, if this is the better Basharat, then I mean that just really seals the deal here.
Yeah, the other one would be in the fucking Apex, I'm pretty sure. Like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, then that would have made more sense for a guy coming in on short notice with a fucking 6-1 record. I mean, Jesus Christ, they really are throwing this kid to the wolves here. What the fuck?
They'll just do the flip flop. They'll be like, "Hey, Javid, you ready? You got this, right?" You'll just go it'll make it more interesting.
Junior Tafa, Justin Tafa. You just swap them in and out. It's a little tag team action.
It's how it works.
Well, either way, I mean that you putting it into perspective even more. I mean, it's an unfortunate sacrifice here. This is your lock of the card, I would say. I mean, Farid Basharat, if this kid John Garza comes in here and pulls the upset off, it's going to be one of those like moments of the sport kind of things. But Ethan Ewing did that same thing against Malcolm Wellmaker. Now, Malcolm Wellmaker maybe not of the same caliber as the Basharat brother here, potentially. Now we know that. But at the time, really, I think everybody thought, oh, guy coming in on short notice, going to go up against Malcolm Wellmaker, who's knocking everybody out. Like, he was able to do it. So it's not impossible, I guess is what I'm saying, but it is very unlikely, very
Yeah,
improbable.
the difference is with John Garza and Ethan Ewing, though, is that Ethan Ewing has a nickname called the Professor Finesser.
He
So
does.
he was obviously destined to be great in this sport. Like, I don't know what to tell you. John Garza, I mean, Malji, it might be the next big thing. I'm not sure. It might be the next Shama. But if he shows
Mo,
out here,
brother, he's from the he's Jungle Book.
oh, okay, my bad, my bad. Anyway, if he comes out here and makes a big statement, I'm a big fan. You know, this is a fight that makes people instantly fans. You know, like the underdog story speaks to a lot of people, of course. And if you're the guy who comes in here, you can already hear what Joe Rogan and DC. This guy's got no fucking chance, bro. The Basharat bro is the greatest in the fucking division. He's the best guy that hasn't had an opportunity. They're gonna build it up so big, and it should be, of course. You know, it's his moment. You know, the story's got to be told for Basharat. This is unfortunately the fight that's got to be made. If John Garza gets this done, stamp of approval right there. So
Yeah, no, I would love it. I mean, I would love a big upset. That would be really cool to see, but it just, again, improbable, unlikely, and all of the like. Yes, we're getting late breaking news that apparently the Basharat brothers are not twins. What is happening right now?
I was just about to say that as well. Like, Jesus, are we in the Mandela effect itself? Like, what is going on here? They look identical, no?
Yeah, for real, they really do. So, I mean, genetics that are that stick to a patterns. I guess is as good as you can say with that. But either way, as far as this fight goes, like I said, this is probably your lock of the card. I would suspect that Farid Basharat's going to be, a minus 1,200 or something like that. If you want to throw, a little bit on the crazy long shot for Garza, I would take it as a straight bet, and just be very comfortable with losing on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just to answer Carlos really quick, we did watch that fight with Diaz and Wellmaker. It was
Yes,
fire.
absolutely. Yep, we are live for all UFC events, so we definitely saw that one. And yeah, we're pulling for you, Malcolm Wellmaker. We're fans around here, brother.
It's a tough climb back, brother, but we'll give a slight mention on the
He's
Monday show.
yeah, exactly, and he's doing the right thing. He's changing camps, so I think again, I got to at least give him credit for recognizing a problem and trying to fix it. So.
There we go. He went to a good team too, as well.
Absolutely. So either way, all right, back to this fight. Final predictions here, Chase. I mean, I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, I think I'm taking Basharat. What about you, Thinker?
I have to as well, and again, this comes with the caveat that I would love to see a big upset here.
And that's my thing about it too. Is like when you look at a fight like this and you understand the context, it's like, how could you make a case? Like, you shouldn't be able to make a case for somebody who's 6-1 against an undefeated fighter who's been doing it at the highest level for his entire career so far. There just shouldn't be a case. So if you are taking the dog here, understand that it is strictly because you have an addiction. Like,
Well, and I mean, okay, I'll make at least the devil's advocate case. Split decision with John Masamoto. I mean, Masamoto got a very close split decision in his last fight here. I mean, he's becoming more beatable, I would say, maybe, so it's like that, maybe there's some angle there. The strength of the last five is not the highest. Chris Gutierrez is probably the best of those, but Victor Hugo, Taylor Lapalus, not in the organization anymore. Clayton Rodriguez, when was the last time you saw him fight? So I mean, I'm saying, like, again, this is all devil's advocate, but I don't think that the strength of the competition for Garza is definitely not going to be there outside of the UFC. 3 fights, are currently on a 5-fight win streak. Again, doesn't speak very much to me when it's in Fury FC. Again, path to victories was what I asked for earlier from Chase. I will tell you, knowing what we know about fighters coming in against guys who are experienced in the organization, there just does not seem to be much of one.
yeah, absolutely. So Basharat across the board. I like it.
All right. Well, there you have it. Let me switch back over to
Yes.
here, and let's go on to the next fight then. This is the one that I am very much looking forward to. I am a big fan of the Pinas. Damian Pinas is fighting Cesar Almeida. Pinas is 9-1. He is 1-0 in the UFC after a knockout win on the Contender Series. His win is over Wes Schultz by knockout. 8 wins by knockout. He has never been knocked out. 1 win by submission. He has never been submitted. He has never seen a third round. His only loss was due to a DQ, due to an illegal kick in Chudo, Brazil. So this guy is pretty well off as far as that goes. And, you know, I did not see the illegal kick, but had it not been for that, it could be a completely undefeated fighter here.
And last thing, just a note, and well traveled. Obviously, this is our Arubian fellow who speaks like 7 languages. You just told me he got DQ'd in Brazil. All right, that's pretty. That's across the lands.
Indeed, yes. Shout out to Aruba.
And
Coming in on the.
Jamaica.
I want to take you. Okay. All right. On the other side of this thing, Almeida is 7-2. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Abdul Razak Al Hassan and Dylan Budka, both by knockout, and Ihor Potieria by unanimous decision. His losses are to Cesario Lashechuk by unanimous decision and Roman Kopylov by split decision. He has 5 wins by knockout. He has never been knocked out. He has no wins by submission and also has never been submitted.
This is an interesting fight to me because Cesar Almeida, this guy fights once a blue moon. And you know what the craziest part is? It's as if his record never changes. How is he 7-2 and we've seen him fight like 3 times now? You know, like that. Like I know he jumped in with a small record, like that's cool, and he was doing the whole Poeton thing. He's gonna chase him, but then he just up and gave that. I don't even give a shit. You know, I'm 38 years old. I'll take my 1 fight a year and we'll call it a day. The thing about Cesar Almeida though is he genuinely is one of the best kickboxers in the world. You know, at a time, glory kickboxing champion, I believe. You know, he was the likes of someone like an Alex Pereira, a Dustin Jacoby. You know, even Dustin Jacoby wasn't at that at the time, but, you know, for what he's grown into, you know, the base is there. He's 38 years old. Cesar Almeida has been doing this an entire lifetime at this point. Kickboxing is no problem. He's going to have a field day with, you know, doing his thing. He's very slow. He's very methodical. He keeps his guard up, but he does get hit. Now, this is where it comes into play. Damian Pinas in his last fight, he wanted to make note that Wes Schultz did not quit in that performance. Like this was the main thing, that Wes Schultz was getting crap. They were like, this dude quit when my money was on the line. No. Damian Pinas wants you to know nobody can take that shot. So I would love to be here saying that Cesar Almeida is going to dodge everything. But Pinas might just be a man of his word. And this might be a dude on his way up. And if nobody can take that shot, Cesar Almeida falls in the category of nobody in this context. I don't know, guys. What are we thinking?
I mean, you know, a lot of people say a lot of shit in this sport is what I would say to that. But
Wes Schultz is a dog, though.
But you are the number 1 Wes Schultz fan on planet Earth, though. So I mean, this is, you know, coming from a unique position that I think is wholly unique to you, Chase. That being said, Wes Schultz aside, I like Damian Pinas. I mean, on the Contender Series, I thought that his fight was very good there. A little bit more competition than he actually faced against Wes Schultz in the organization. But going up against Wes Schultz is basically Contender Series Part 2. Wes Schultz was, I believe, either on his debut or it was his second fight in the organization, one of the two. So very close to it. I don't like that. I don't like when you have a guy coming off the Contender Series fighting a guy who's also very new. I like to see them starting to fight people that are a little bit more tenured in the organization, because how are you going to know how they're going to do against higher level competition unless you start seeing them fighting people who have been around for a while in the UFC? So I think that it's unfortunate in this case, because you are right. Cesar Almeida, as much as he feels like an NPC in this sport, he is not. He really is not. He's a dude who has crazy power. He's big. He's bulky. He doesn't allow himself to get muscled around as well, which is a big problem that I think that's really why I think Cesario Lashechuk had so much success. I don't think anybody expected him to be able to muscle him around like that. So it was very interesting that happened to be how that one went down. But I mean, you know, on the feet, I think that if he's going to strike with him, and both these guys are strikers, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for my dude Damian over here. I want to pick him so bad, but this might be the time. This might be the time where he gets checked. And I hate to say that, because I want him to win this. I really would I'm not the biggest fan of Cesar Almeida. Of course, you know, going back to the Ihor Potieria fight, we reference that often about how much of a clusterfuck that fight was. That did not put a good impression of him in here. A win over Abdul Razak Al Hassan, sure, fine. You know, that's an okay win. Dylan Budka, give me a fucking break that's even a fight that's on his record. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't see Damian Pinas doing what Cesario Olashechuk did, and that I think is what is going to be the ultimate downfall here.
It is going to be an interesting fight to see how Damian Pinas is going to evolve as a fighter. Is he going to be the dude who genuinely thinks that I have the punching power to knock everybody out? Am I just going to go in here and just try to knock him out? Or is Pinas actually going to utilize what the tape has given him? Olajechuk was able to get him down, and obviously, it's a little different of a story once you're in there with him. But Cesar Almeida, the thing about him as well on the feet is he sets a lot of traps. So he's a very, very good kickboxer, but to do that, you have to be willing to take some shots. And if Pinas is right, rather saying it in jest and having a little more arrogance than he should, if he cleans Cesar Almeida's clock at 38 years old, I'm not gonna sit here and be surprised.
The-
That doesn't look like the craziest thing ever, because I can totally see Cesar Almeida just like I can envision him just waking up and it's like not the worst thing ever. He's like, what happened? And it's like, oh, it
You
just
do
shit
make
happens.
you make a good point. I mean, 38 years old with a 7-2 record. He is a little bit late to the party here. I admit that.
He's had his career, this is his his sun setting kind of deal. He's 38 years old. He's not necessarily taking mixed martial arts as serious as the next guy. He comes in here and he thinks he's going to do his thing and just fucking gets checked one time and he sits him down, and then we get an onslaught, or he doesn't wake up. I don't know. Like, I feel like I've seen this happen before. Damian Pinas, there's something about the story, there's something here that we have to see more of. You're saying, I think this might be the one he gets checked. If you think he gets checked in his second UFC fight, I don't know. I feel like this is a guy. Vegas and the matchmakers know all. They know that Pinas can beat this dude. And like, they know that this is the star in the making. Have you seen him talk on the mic? He's good. This is the star in the making right here. With a name like that, the kids are going to love the 6'7" Pinas. Listen, Cesar Almeida is a prime target. I like Cesar Almeida, and I'm actually one of the more bigger fans of him. And I hate that I have to say it, but as I feel like I've picked the person to have the clean fight already, I don't know if it's going to be Cesar Almeida. I went with Zachary Reese, but I can't go 2 for 2 on these guys just inevitably not getting checked. So Damian Pinas, I'm going to go with the finish, and I don't think it'll be round one, but I do think it'll come round two.
I also am going to go with Damian Pinas on this because I want to believe that the story, as you're saying, is unfolding before us. I mean, look, this is a guy who there. When you watch the Contender Series, and you're going to hopefully with us this year as well. We got the Contender Series coming up. We watch the Contender Series. I go through all of these fights. Last year was a great example of what I'm talking about. So many first round knockouts, so many, these guys that you don't get a lot of information about. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll see how they do in the organization. There are certain fighters that will stick in your mind and you're like, that's one of those guys. That's a guy that I can see better for. You get that little feeling, that little beacon starts, pinging in the back of your head. I had that with Damian Pinas. I cannot go against that instinct in this instance, even though, like you said, Almeida is a tough customer over here. I too am going to go with Damian Pinas because I want to believe that the story is being written, like you say. I want to believe that this dude is the next up. I think that the way that you're framing it does kind of track, but even regardless of any of the things that you've said, I'm taking it on the hopes that he really is that guy.
The thing that I'll say about Pinas that I would say is a positive, that this is a good thing going forward. It's not necessarily anything that matters or is actually like actual scientific evidence, but this is just the way that I'm framing it. Damian Pinas is the type of dude that has that personality that would fit into the Ultimate Fighter. Now, we know that those guys are not necessarily the level that we want them to be, but this next season, we'll see how it shapes out. But in previous fashion, the guys haven't been always the best. Damian Pinas has that flair and personality of your Ultimate Fighter kind of guy, but he comes from where the formidable forces are being made, So I really think this is good for him coming off Contender Series. Guys, Wes Schultz is a tough fighter. I'm telling you, if that first round, he was done. So Cesar Almeida, I think he'll be able to take a little bit more of a beating because he'll be more defensively sound. Wes Schultz's idea to get beat up until they stop. Cesar Almeida actually has defense, but I think Damian Pinas might just be that next level guy up, and not necessarily next level, but we've seen plenty of people with that spark and they get 3 or 4 fights in and then they fall. Like, I don't see this being the reason that Damian Pinas fails, even if Cesar Almeida is as good as I believe he is. I think this just happens to be right place, right time. Damian Pinas.
All right, I like it. I hope that that is the case. And like I said, this is one I'm very excited for because I do like Damian. I'm rooting for him.
Absolutely.
All right, good deal. Well, moving on to the last of the early prelims here. Of course, we go from Pinas to Wang. Tracy Cortez is fighting Wang Tong. Cortez is 12-3. She is 3-2 in her last 5. Her wins are over Viviane Araújo and Jasmine Jasdavicius and Melissa Gatto, all by unanimous decision. Her losses are to Erin Blanchfield by sub and Rose Namajunas by unanimous decision. She has 1 win by knockout. She has never been knocked out. She has 1 win by submission and has never been submitted. She is 2-1 in her last 3, 11-fight win streak before the Namajunas loss. Wang Tong is 9-1. She is 4-1 in her last 5. Her wins are over Eduarda Mora, Ariane Lipski, and Bruna Brazil, all by unanimous decision, and Victoria Leonardo by knockout. Her losses to Gabriela Fernandez by submission. She has 2 wins by knockout. She has never been knocked out. She has 2 wins by sub and has been submitted 1 time. She, of course, is 8-0-1 in kickboxing, including a win over Valentina Shevchenko.
Now, this is an awesome fight, specifically because I love Wang Tong. And what I would say initially off the bat is I truly believe at 34 years old, obviously she's not, on the come up. So what we have right now is such a good glimpse of what one of the best strikers in the organization looks like. This girl is so fucking good. She is good off of front foot, back foot, side to side. Like, she has so many different weapons in her arsenal. She sets up, again, talking about Cesar Almeida setting up traps. Wang Tong dropped Eduarda Moira just trying to punch her in the chest, and Moira dipped her face right into it. It's things like that. It's like, it's not necessarily Wang Tong, where she's going to come out here and obliterate somebody in round 1. She has, but she dismantles people. And Tracy Cortez, as much as I want to believe that there's still something there, she dropped the weight, she got to a new division. Maybe you don't want to take too much into account if she lost to Erin Blanchfield, but I mean, she got finished, and very easily is what it looked like, in my opinion, and started to fucking, whatever you want to say. Wang Tong, genuinely, and I believe this, Tracy Cortez, she got boxed up by Rose Namajunas. Look at the striking levels between Rose and Wang Tong. It's not even close here. Wang Tong is going to light Tracy up. And I used to believe that Tracy has this ability. She can get people down. She can use this frame of her to hold people. No, Wang Tong has shown so much growth in her game when it comes to the takedowns. We saw what happened in her second debut, or her second fight with Fernandez, or third fight, whatever it was, and she got finished. She knows better now. She's on a mission. Valentina is still, the carrot is still right there for Valentina. She just marches forward through the division, and she will eventually potentially get her opportunity to get her, or her opportunity with Shevchenko. But this is a great matchup for Wang Tong because Tracy Cortez is the type of person who gets punched in the face. She's never been knocked out. That's fine. Wang Tong is an exceptional striker, and she's not just your average level, and she has knocked out women before. It's not going to be crazy to me when Wang Tong, I'm not even saying she's going to prove anybody wrong. Like, there should be nobody that thinks Tracy has got this one in the bag, of course. They're going to need a Hail Mary out of her.
Yeah, I mean, this is the end of the pretty privilege for Tracy, which, I mean,
True.
should have been coming a long time ago. I mean, we've been seeing Tracy Cortez shaking her ass in Jose Cuervo ads for long enough, and that's fine. Look, she's a pretty girl. That's all good. No, the sport doesn't care when you got someone who like Wang Tong, who, like you said, I mean, the biggest point that you cooked on there is the improvements of Wang Tong over time in this sport. She came in as a kickboxer, had a lot of great attributes coming in. She's a little bit rough there. The Gabriela Fernandez fight, I think, was a little bit of a wake-up call and a couple of things that she needed to shore up. What did she do? She shored up the holes in the game. And when you saw what happened in the Eduarda Mora fight, where she was going through adversity, where she was having to get out of the submission attempts and being grappled up over there and having to like really dig deep at times. She was bloodied up in that fight. I mean, like that was a really good fight overall. I mean, like a really good skills display.
Fight of the year candidate for me, to be
so
fair.
there you go. So I mean, like, this was a display of the improvements of Wang Tong to come out on top in a fight like that. And shout out to Eduarda Mora for that too, because I would always been skeptical of her. She definitely proved to me that there's more to her than I was giving her credit for. But at the end of the day, Wang Tong, ended up showing exactly what she's made of. And Tracy, like you said, using the frame, we all talk about, yeah, she's got she packs a lot in the back. She's bottom half heavy. Well, that is sometimes able to hold people up against the cage if that's where they want it to be or where they allow it to be. Wang Tong showing that she's not accepting anything from these women, and I appreciate that.
It would be a big statement for Tracy to come out here and outbox Wang Tong, because her boxing, I mean, it is not, very illustrious. It is a very basic she just throws 1-2s and throws overhands and hooks. She doesn't really mix it up too much. Rather, Wang Tong is obviously doing, teeps, low kicks, side kicks. She's doing everything in her arsenal here. So it would be a big statement if Tracy Cortez does get this done on the feet somehow. I don't believe that's going to happen. I also would like to say is, if you watch that Wang Tong and Moira fight, the third round, Wang Tong is not just here to fuck around. She's here to finish people, bro. Listen, it's one thing to get a little choke, and bro, the Brazilian that was trying to fucking choke you earlier, and you're trying to choke her out at the end of the fight. I mean, you won, in my opinion. Out there, she's awesome. Wang Tong is really here to fuck some shit up, and I think Tracy Cortez is the prime target. And you're right, the pretty privilege. I don't think she sees it coming either. I think she might come in here and have a little bit more confidence than she should.
Yeah, because she's got a chip on her shoulder. I mean, it's the thing about Tracy. And I mean, look, I respect it because you should have the confidence when you're in this sport. You should be confident in your abilities, but she has not backed it up at a higher level to really make the rest of the world believe that. So it's great that you believe that. It's great that you're backstage, you're jawing at Fiona and stuff. I mean, that's fine for the social media clicks and impressions. But when it comes to what you do in the cage, you got to be 100% there too. And what we have seen is Aaron Blanchfield get a very easy sub off of you and Rose Namajunas touch you up. So, I mean, I think that what you said, Wang Tong, I don't think that you would see Wang Tong in those positions with those fighters. Would it be competitive fights? Yes, absolutely. I think both of those fights would be way better fights than this is going to be. But, she still has to work her way to that. This is a stepping stone fight to get her there. Wang Tong able to make the leap.
Now, what I will say to this, and this is specifically to the skill of the competition. Now, there's definitely leaps and bounds between, Rose Namajunas and the girl that fucking Wang Tong obliterated on her debut. The names of the people are not great for Wang Tong. Moira is fine because she was undefeated at the time. They really were trying to feed her. They were trying to feed Wang to her. So yep. I think Wang Tong. I think what you see is a lot more than the story is telling you. I think they've tried to, craft her slowly, but she's more evolved than what I think they were giving her credit for. And you see this, of course, giving her a fight like Tracy Cortez. This is a bigger named person than fucking Edward Moira. This is a big coming out party for Wang Tong. I do think she's going to finish her. I'm going to go with, again, after round 1, Wang Tong knockout.
I like it. And yeah, you do make a good point about the strength of record. I mean, Tracy's is better. I mean, she has Jasmine Jasudavicius in her last 5. Even the losses, obviously, they age pretty well against, potentially a champion and a former champion. So I do admit that the strength of record is different, but Wang Tong is still on, the evolutionary phase, the come up phase. So this is exactly as you said. This, and like I had said too, this is the next stone in the stepping stone progression for Wang Tong. I think she gets this done pretty handily. Even if she has to drag it out, like you said, if it has to go into the later rounds, I'm okay with that too. She can touch her up as long as she wants.
She has shown me that even after she doesn't want to punch you anymore, that she's still more than willing to try to figure out how to finish that fight. Her grappling looks confident, and Tracy, it looks like the confidence fades when it's not going her way instantly. So I'm excited for this fight, really.
I am as well. So we are in lockstep once again. Wang Tong getting the job done. I like it. All right, moving on to the prelims. And before we do, of course, shout out to the chat. You guys are awesome for hanging with us. Hydra is here. Appreciate you, brother. We already shouted you out, but shout out one more time to Carlos. Appreciate you as well. Maniac coming in. Love to see you in the chat, brother. Appreciate you. And of course, the GOAT CTE. You guys are awesome.
Absolutely.
And next up on the docket here is Luke Riley, and he is fighting Kai Kamaka III. Riley is 13-0. He is 2-0 in the UFC. His wins are over Michael Aswell Jr. by unanimous decision and Bogdan Grad by knockout. He has 9 wins by knockout. He has never been knocked out. 0 wins by submission, and he has never been submitted himself. He is, of course, a Cage Warriors prospect standout. Kamaka III is 18-7-1. He is 1-0 in this stint in the UFC. His win is over Dakota Hope by split decision. He has 3 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out twice. He has 1 win by submission. He has never been submitted. This dude, Kamaka III, has been around. He fought in a few random promotions, then went to Bellator, 1 fight in LFA. First UFC stint did not go great for him. Bellator again into the PFL merger, then Tough Enough, and now back in UFC.
This one, I think this one is actually really cool because Luke Riley, as little as we know about him, of course, like he's very methodical in there. He's a tactical fighter. You know, he doesn't necessarily go in there and start you in round one. It takes a moment for him to build a game plan, and then he really unloads, kind of deal. Right when it's needed, he really does his good thing. But Kamaka, you know, UFC debut or second stint debut, whatever you want to say, really impressed me. Now it was against also somebody who was on their debut, but it didn't necessarily need to be anything other than that. You know, the where they were at in their career didn't really mean anything at that point. What you saw, 2 dudes who had cardio on short notice, mind you. I'm pretty sure that fight was just thrown to fucking together. I don't even know. But, you know, you had cardio, you had volume, you had toughness. I mean, Kamaka, when it came to striking, he showed me a lot of things that a lot of people take multiple fights to be able to showcase. I'm not necessarily going to say that this dude's going to come out here and whoop Luke Riley, but he did show that he is very, very tough. He will walk forward and give a fight to you. Luke Riley, I think he's got he's got one of these looks that's very unassuming because he is a dude that will stand and bang. You know, I really appreciate that he is not. He doesn't shy away from a fight. You know, fucking Bogdan Grad. That's a pretty scary dude to go in a fight against. And Luke Riley fucking easily dismantled him, easily. So Kamaka, I don't think he's necessarily going to win. It's unfortunate because he did, you know, have a good moment, but he's been finished before. You know, he's been knocked out. I'm not necessarily seeing that it was any time like recently. Polynesian Chin. I don't know what to make of it. Thinker, what are you thinking?
He's been knocked out twice, you know, and never been submitted. So, I mean, not as much threat there. I don't think that Riley's much of a submission threat. At least he hasn't shown that yet. The things that's standing out to me is
no submissions for Riley.
Right, correct. Yeah. Well, he has right. No submissions and never been submitted, and Kamaka has 1 submission win. So I don't think much of a submission threat on either side here. But the thing that's standing out to me is the Michael Aswell Jr. fight. You know, we know that I call him the Iron Chin of Texas. You know, this guy is a very tough dude. He takes a lot of damage, but he stays in the fight. Riley having to dig a little bit deeper in a fight like that. Kamaka did have, you know, Dakota Hope in that fight came out very, very aggressively, and Kamaka was able to weather all of that. I think that this is going to be a very competitive fight. I think that it's going to be I think this is going to probably go the distance, I would say, based on the toughness of both of these guys. I think that Riley probably ends up getting the nod at the end of the day because Kamaka, I mean, you know, it was a pretty close fight with Dakota Hope, if you recall. I mean, he was very
arguably lost. I mean, it was a split. It was really close. Let me just say that.
Exactly. I mean, you know, it really, you know, could have gone either way. Very razor thin as far as the decision goes. So, you know, that being said, I think that, you know, it's like if Riley puts the pressure on, keeps the aggression up to basically do some of the things that Dakota Hope did without getting overly aggressive like Hope did, because I think that was ultimately one of his downfalls, is that he got a little bit overzealous and wasn't able to spread that out over the course of the 3 rounds effectively. He kind of had round 1, and I believe he came back in round 3 and had a little bit of a resurgence, but had he had a more consistent performance, he might have been able to you know, get the nod that way. I think that maybe Riley does that, spreads it out a little bit more effectively throughout the course of this fight, maybe clinches him up to slow him down a little bit, that kind of thing. Paces it, you know, just leading the dance is kind of how I would see this going for on the Riley side. And that's what I think ends up ultimately getting him the win here. Because Kamaka, you know, like you said, he was very impressive. I think that it was, you know, somebody that with a record like that, 18-7-1 in a second stint in the UFC, you're not really expecting too much. He showed that he is more of a formidable opponent than you might have been giving him credit for in a fight like what he was in with Hope. that being said, I think Riley comes in with a little bit more of the full package, I would say, out of the two of them at least. I mean, I'm a little bit skeptical of Riley in the big picture, but in a fight like this, based on where both of them are in their career, I think that Riley, drag it out. Like I said, it'll probably go to decision, but I think he gets the nod.
Yeah, yeah, Riley is probably the better play, of course. Kamaka has 7 losses. Riley has never faced defeat. But Kamaka, I mean, that is a fighter that really does have if he fights like he did last time, that's a pressure and pace that is something that's hard to handle for 3 rounds, of course. Now, Luke Riley, his performance last fight wasn't necessarily the greatest, as of what we've seen from Michael Aswell lately. I mean, it's like, you should probably have been able to get this dude. But Luke Riley wasn't necessarily the happiest with that performance, so I'm excited to see what he's going to do in this fight. If he's able to finish Kamaka, I mean, it's not necessarily the greatest feat. Maybe I just sound like a hater, but like it's good. I'm rooting for you to go ahead and do it. That would be the best thing you can do, of course. But I wouldn't be surprised if you take him to decision. If you knock him out, that is great. But I mean, I need to see
Well,
somebody who hasn't been 7 losses, I guess.
yeah, fair. I think that that for like hardcore fans, it's a good signal based on the amount of adversity that Kamaka took in the Hope fight. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, because if he was able to, because that first round, I mean, like, I think that most people thought that he was going to get knocked out in the first round, the way that Dakota Hope was fighting. I mean, this dude was throwing the kitchen sink at him in round one, and he somehow was able to duck, dip, dive, and dodge his way out of everything to make it into the later rounds. So that being said, if you can catch him, good deal. I mean, I think that that's really what it comes down to is the accuracy of Riley. He's been pretty good in that department. I mean, he's not one of these dudes that's winging unnecessary shots as far as I can recall. I'm not seeing him sailing shots off into the stratosphere. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's economical with his striking in a way that makes sense for him. Of course, Scousers don't get knocked out. I don't know if you've heard that before, Chase, but that is something that certainly ringing true for him right now, at least, never been knocked out. And with no submission threat over here, this is probably going to be a pretty, a fast, twitchy kind of, striker's affair. And if he's able to weather the storm with Kamaka as far as the movement and the evasiveness, then I think he's got a shot.
I think he does too. It is going to be. It's just going to be an interesting fight. I think Luke Riley obviously is going to get it done. And the last thing I'll say is I do think he looks like Walt Jr. Yeah.
True. Yeah, he definitely does bear a resemblance. So take that for what it is. Bring that into into your equation. So you going with Riley then?
I'm going with Luke Riley. Yes.
All right. So am I. I'm going Luke Riley by decision, I believe, and a knockout would be a cherry on top.
Yes, absolutely.
I like it. All right, good deal. Well, let's move on to the next one then. Of course, this is Cody Garbrandt. You were talking about him earlier. He is fighting Adrian Yanez. Cody Garbrandt is 15-7. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Zhao Long and Trevin Jones by unanimous decision, Brian Kelleher by knockout. His losses are to Hani Barcelos by unanimous decision and Davison Figueiredo by submission. 11 wins by knockout, knocked out 4 times for Cody Garbrandt, 0 wins by submission, and he has been submitted 1 time. Yanez is 17-6-1. He is 1-3-1 in his last 5. His win is over Vinicius Salvador by knockout. His losses are to Daniel Marcos by split decision, Jonathan Martinez and Rob Font, both by knockout. His draw was with Ricky Simone, and we don't have to relitigate that, but you know how upset that fight made me. He has 11 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out twice. He has 2 wins by submission and has never been submitted.
Well, this fight, you guys know exactly what you're going to get out of it. These are 2 dudes that are going to scrap. I mean, from what I've seen in the last fight with Yanez, he seems like he's pretty game for a striking affair. Cody Garbrandt, say what you will about his chin and where he's at in his career. Obviously, I talked about from Saturday. I saw him at the height of his career, right before he gets the belt. This is a ways after, unfortunately. But he has never shied away from a battle. He goes in there and he does strike with people. And whether or not he's quick enough to get out of the way, that's a different story. Yanez did seem like a pretty good scrapper, and I think this will be a really good fight. I think this will be one of those dust cloud performances that it's going to be hard to score, but the scoring's not going to matter because Yanez is probably going to knock Cody Garbrandt out. I mean, what he did to Simone in the 3rd round, people are talking about 10-8 just because of 1 drop. That's incorrect, but he did drop him at the fucking bell. You know, I mean, the power was there at the end. So if Cody Garbrandt gets checked at any point in this fight, I think Yanez is going to, because you know how Cody Garbrandt fights. He's going to try to do his fucking thing. He's going to try to use the force. You know, he's going to get chinned. I hate to say it. Like, that's just the way that I'm seeing it.
Cody Garbrandt consistently showcases some of the most baffling fight IQ that you see in the UFC. It's unfortunate because I do believe that there is raw talent there. And I think that there is a better fighter underneath all of that technically. I think that he is a technically proficient fighter when he's not making some of the dumbest decisions that you see a fighter make. You go back to the Hani Barcelos fight. There were so many times in that fight that I was like, why are you choosing to do the things that you are doing right now? You know, it's just like you're watching Cody Garbrandt and you can see like the speed is always there. He's such a fast striker. He's light on his feet. You know, his boxing is very technically proficient, but then he just makes decisions that lead him to defeat. It's like you have two paths that you can walk down at any given time, and he is consistently taking the harder, more difficult path. He makes fights hard for himself. I do not understand why he goes out of his way to sabotage his own performances, but he consistently does this. Yanez, on the other side, even if the record does not speak to this, is a better fighter than that record would lead you to believe. I think that, you know, that the draw with Ricky Simone certainly speaks to what, you know, that element of things. Like, that was a pretty competitive fight all the way through. The end result aside, I mean, you know, I thought that he showcased a lot of great skills in that fight, and I think that he is another technically proficient fighter who does not make baffling decisions when it comes to his fights. You take the two of those, you smash them together, and I think that the outcome is pretty clear.
Absolutely. First, fix the page real quick. The
Oh,
ESPN.
I'm sorry.
You're okay. And the last thing that I think I'll note is when you look at how Cody Garbrandt fights, very, very traditional boxer kind of. He does add a little kickboxing into it, but he's very tight with his boxing. He gets in, he drops, and he goes out in the emotes. Yanez, on the other hand, is a very long fight. Like, he fights long. He uses his range kind of deal, and I really and you know, you talk about Cody Garbrandt. That's another thing that I will agree. His speed has never left him in the hands. He is always going to be quick, always going to be fast. But Yanez is pretty quick too, guys. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying, I mean, this is a cheetah versus a jaguar here. Like, this dude is not necessarily the slouch, and he can fight more longer, you know, so he might be able to get the jab going, start with a 1-2. Cody Garbrandt sits down, he starts shooting for takedowns, and Yanez just pounds him, you know. Like, I'm not going to be surprised if that's how it goes.
They're bantamweights that fight like flyweights, you know, I mean, like at times. So, I mean, that's, you know, it lends itself to a really good competitive fight if Cody Garbrandt does not make bad decisions. I hate to say this about Cody Garbrandt because it's like, you know, I really just wish that he would make the changes like mentally, because like I remember listening to an interview with Cody Garbrandt maybe like 2 years ago, something like that. It was in the time when he was having like a bunch of his losses. You know, he's going through one of the rockier phases here that still continues to this day. But he was saying, you know, I changed gyms. I got distractions out of my life. I've made all, you know, it's like, okay,
I got this tattoo on my eye.
I mean, obviously, what a great decision that was. You know, it's like you're making the adjustments, at least in verbally, you're saying you're doing all of the right things. And then what I end up seeing is the same, you know, bizarre choices. And that is really, I think at the end of the day, the biggest problem. It's like, if you can fix everything around you, but there's a core issue that remains a problem, I don't know what to tell you, man. There's a deeper rooted problem that needs to be addressed. And if you're not addressing it, then, you know, I don't see those types of problems from Yanez.
Yeah, I think this one is just up for grabs. I don't necessarily think that Yanez is somebody I'm high on, I'm sold on. Again, I didn't think that he beat Simone. I didn't think it was whatever you want to say. Cody Garbrandt does have the opportunity to chin Yanez. I don't know if he's going to, but there always is a chance. I just don't think it's something that I would gamble my money on at this point. Is the hard truth.
All right. Well, that all being said, then how you leaning?
I'm definitely taking Yanez. I'll give you your opportunity. Speak for yourself. Cody is still on the table. There's still an opportunity.
You know, I wish I could, man. I wish I could, but there's just been too many times. Again, you know, we talk about strength of record here too. Now, yeah, a win over Vinicius Salvador for Adrian Yanez. Yeah, you know, not speaking very highly here. But again, what we saw in the Ricky Simone fight, I think should be what informs your decision-making here. Garbrandt getting the wins over Zhao Long in that, again, very bizarre fight.
He didn't win that fight. That
There's
was
that
the
too.
craziest thing. They gave it to him after they took the point from Zhao Long, but Zhao Long still won every other round. So that doesn't equate to a Cody Garbrandt win. Like, I don't, whatever.
Yeah,
Go on.
exactly. So I mean, so you have that element of things. A win over Trevin Jones, again, nothing to write home about, and Brian Kelleher has been out of the organization for a while now. So I don't think that there's anything in the current record that's really informing the decision making aside from the draw with Ricky Simone for Yanez. All of these things lead me right to an Adrian Yanez prediction.
Absolutely. I love it.
All right. Well, Len, let's move on to the next one. Shout out to the 10-7 MMA checking in, brother. Appreciate you.
And keep that thought for a little bit. We'll definitely come back to it, 10-7.
Oh, of course, we certainly will, but not before we talk about the elephant in the room here. Gable Steveson is making his debut against Elisha Ellison. Steveson is 3-0. This is, of course, his UFC debut. All 3 wins are by knockout. He has never been knocked out. 0 wins by submission in MMA. He has never been submitted. However, he is an Olympic gold medalist in freestyle wrestling, among many, many, many other gold medals and other awards. He is a highly decorated wrestler. He is going up against Ellison, who is 5-2. He is 0-1 in the UFC. His loss is to Brando Perisic by knockout. He has 4 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out once. He has 1 win by submission. He has been submitted once. He was on a 3 knockout streak before the Perisic loss and has never been to decision in his career.
This one, I mean, there's obviously a plethora of things that we could talk about outside of the organization that is involving Gable Steveson. And by the way, I just got so frustrated because I'm sitting here listening to you introduce him, and I'm like, why the fuck is he saying Steveson? This dude's name doesn't have an N in it. That just makes me so mad? Like, oh brother! Like, out of all the other things
I've heard people I've heard people pronounce it Steveson, so I don't know if that if that is better for you or if that's more correct. But yeah, Steveson is how I've heard it pronounced and how I pronounce it.
Steve, get your son, brother. Get your son. Either
Son
way,
of Steve.
So a son of Susie. Here's the next one. Anyway, so Gable Steveson. I'm gonna be so fucking Gable, of course. This guy does have a decorated background, and that is in wrestling, which at heavyweight you don't normally see a lot of great wrestlers. We are starting to see people who are becoming wrestlers. They're not necessarily credentialed wrestlers that have been doing it for, in a system at a collegiate level for however long, whatever you want to say. The other thing is that Ellison, that dude don't even matter. I mean, that could have been anybody. That this is just the dude to get him in the organization with a win. So it's obviously a finish coming. But there's not much else to talk about with this fight because this is a win for Gable. That's what they want. This is exactly the feeder fight that it's going to be. Now, there's one specific thing that I think that I have to talk about with Gable. Not that I have to talk about like the other shit. That is other times. This specifically, his last bout. Actually, it might have even been like a dirty boxing, I think, his last bout. But his last MMA bout, it was against some random, South American guy. And when he came out to the cage, you're like, oh God, like, of course he's going to fucking they gave him some blob to fucking lose to or whatever. And I actually think it was like a light heavyweight who made, like, there was like a 40-pound difference or something. But did you have something to say before I continue?
No, I was just, it was in like Mexico Fight League, I believe, was the random organization to get him a couple wins kind of thing.
Yes. So this guy that he faced, you knew what we were getting into. It's like, all right, he's going to get slimed out in the first round. No big deal. But now this is interesting to know because Gable Steveson, you may not know many things about him other than his wrestling. In this fight against the Mexican Fight League or whatever, this heavyweight guy threw a fucking spin kick. And this is the craziest thing that you ever see because when you see him, you're like, yeah, dude, I ain't never going to kick nobody in his life. And he threw a fully flushed wheel kick. It cracked Gable Steveson. Like, bro, you can, in the slow-mo, you can see the sweat just like bead off of him. Gable ate that shit. Gable ate it like it was nothing. Whether that was just EPOs that he was on at the time. I don't know what this dude's going to be into. He's obviously done some heinous things before. It's not above me. He's literally with the pictogram guy. That's his coach. Like, so the point is he ate a flush wheel kick straight to his fucking jaw and it did not move him at all, and that spoke to me as, okay, he is going to be able to take a punch. I mean, if that kick, brother, I can't tell you a harder thing to get impacted on your face other than the heel and a full fucking rotation of the body. Like, I mean, I can't get over how crazy it was to see this guy throw this fucking kick and it land. Like, imagine where Gable would have been had he just got flatlined in the Mexico Fight League by a spinning wheel kick from a random nobody. Things could have been very different. But it leads me to believe that he's going to leave himself open plenty more times. I mean, a wheel kick is crazy. Obviously, I'm not expecting anybody to be able to just fucking, he ate that shot. He'll eat another shot. But how many? Who's going to be that heavyweight guy? Shamil Gaziev can knock people out, guys. I'm not saying he's the greatest and he might get taken down, but he does have that I can just hit you with a straight right hand and you fall down type of shot. Is Gable going to test his chin later in his career? This one doesn't even matter. The point is he going to continue to trust his ability to take shots? I think it's good for him as a fighter because you definitely need to be able to. Look at Hokut. He went in there with the confidence that he's going to take all these shots and do this. Gable, though, one day, bro, that wheel kick would have knocked you out, and somebody's going to be able to land a shot that can do just that. It's not necessarily all about the power, precision, accuracy, whatever. Somebody's going to be able to land these shots. That wheel kick was crazy, and for right now, I will believe that he's got a chin against fucking Elijah Ellison. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is, exactly as you said, a way to get him in the organization. It's unfortunate for that reason because I think that this is going to be one of those performances that is going to give people who are not as keyed in, who did not see that sloppy ass performance in Mexico for Steveson. I mean, like, I think it's going to give them the impression that he, is the next up. And now maybe if he showcases some of this freestyle wrestling that he is so credentialed in, there's a little bit more to bite on with that. But all of his wins are by knockout. He is trying to build himself up as a dude who has the wrestling in the back pocket if he needs it, but he's got knockout power. If you've watched Steveson striking, he is sloppy. This guy is not he's not a technically amazing striker. I mean, like he gets the job done, obviously, against Cans. He probably is going to get the job done against Ellison, but is he, like some striking phenom who also just happens to have a wrestling base? I would say no, based on what I have seen.
Well, his trainer is John Jones, who doesn't necessarily have the greatest boxing that you've seen on planet Earth, and you have to really take that into account. This isn't just somebody who's just at, American Top Team. This is somebody who's probably training in John Jones's gym. Like, this is, who knows what these two dudes are doing, whatever the case is. This is his protege. Everything that he's learning comes straight from John Jones. So John Jones is, he probably does have like a good striking coach or whatever, but like anything that Gable does is John's hands on. Don't teach him anything. I'm going to show him the way. I'm going to make a great fighter because it's all about John Jones at the end of the day. He's going to make a great fighter. He's going to make Gable Steveson that he's going to have 6 pro bouts and be a champion. Whatever you want to say John Jones's plan is for Gable, that's up to them. But for right now, Ellison, $12,000, brother. Good job. You made it. So
yeah, well, and I mean, look, that's the other part of this whole thing is that what happened in the Ellison fight with Brando. If you now know how Brando Perisic fights, he went in and just swarmed him, got him out of there early. Ellison obviously not able to weather the early storm. I think that it's probably not going to be that case because I don't think Steveson has that type of killer instinct when it comes to the striking. Like, I think he's a little bit more of a slow striker to start at least, but Ellison is of the same caliber as the people that he's already been fighting. So this is really just a regional fight for Steveson on the big stage. That being said, we might see a little bit of his wrestling if he wants to show some of that. I think that overall, this is just, as predicted, the gimme fight to get him into the organization, get him to become established so that we can see him fight farther up the roster at some point. Then I think, what you were talking about comes into play is when he actually is fighting more efficient fighters, more, fighters with a better fight IQ, tougher opponents at heavyweight. I mean, there are going to be a lot of power strikers that are going to be able to get around all of this shit that he does when it comes to the stand-up game.
I feel bad because Ellison, again, it could have been anybody. But my thing is, if it could have been anybody, my choice, and this is because this is somebody who got kind of screwed over. Dana really doesn't even like Freddie Vidal. But I think this would have been the perfect opportunity to give him, because Freddie Vidal may not be great. He may not be the best. But he got a submission with 1 second left, brother. Gable Steveson might not be. Listen, Freddie Vidal, is somebody who I think deserves an opportunity like this. What the fuck has Elijah Ellison done? Like, what? I mean, again, he's just somebody to get knocked out by this. But like, we're supposed to be, you got to make a name off your opponent too. This is your fight as well. Freddie Vidal is a guy who won his Contender Series fight, got another fight on Contender Series because it was on short notice and it was sloppy the first time. He wins. He gets into the organization, loses to a guy who pops on steroids. Like, or maybe that was on Contender Series that he lost it. But the point is, he got fucked over. That could have been him in this opportunity. Freddie Vidal, I haven't forgot. Elijah Ellison, I don't think you deserve this opportunity, brother. That's all that I'm saying.
Well, I mean, that is right there why Elijah Ellison needs to go out here and rain on this parade. I mean, I would say that this is somewhat of a foregone conclusion that Steveson is winning this fight, but this is the opportunity for Ellison. This is a now or never moment for Elijah Ellison if he wants to be the guy, if he wants to be somebody who is going to advance in this organization, win this fight. This needs to be, because this is a statement. Anybody who follows this sport knows the name Gable Steveson at this point. This debut has been very highly anticipated, the connection with John Jones, et cetera, et cetera. We can go on, and that's not even counting all of the negative stuff. That being said, this is the opportunity for Elisha Ellison to show that this guy Steveson is not who they claim he is, that this is a fraud check waiting to happen, and all of those types of things. That is your imperative in this fight, Mr. Ellison. This is your mission. If you choose to accept it, will he be able to pull that off? That is the question.
I really just, Elijah Ellison, I'm not saying he is the guy to do this, but Hokit is a good example of somebody who potentially could do this. Gable Steveson, you guys got to remember, this guy couldn't make it in the WWE. Like, punk this dude out, bro. He wanted to do the fake shit. Like, what are we talking about? Like, he tried the fake shit first and he wasn't up for it. Now he can do this, and he's getting some wins against some cans, against people that he obviously rightfully should be beating with his credentials kind of deal. Not necessarily doing it with his wrestling, but he's beating people that are not great. Punk this dude the fuck out, bro, especially what you know about his past. Like, bro, I'm not saying throw it all on the front of the page, but like, brother, if you know this dude is a fucking heinous criminal, go in there and whoop this dude's ass for all of us. Like, come on.
I mean, that's the only potential silver lining, is that down the line we're going to get an actual trash talker to come in here and utilize all of the multiple pieces of ammunition that you have against Steveson for the pre-fight lead up and all of that. I don't know if that's going to happen here, but you are right. I mean, this is potentially something that you can make a real statement with if you beat this guy, with all of the hype on one side, the negativity on the other side, all of the things that and potentially think could be the case with Steveson. This is the opportunity to do just that, to punk him the fuck out. So if you have that in you, then make it happen. The problem is what I said earlier. I think that Ellison is sadly of the same caliber of fighter that Steveson has already been facing on the regional circuit. That does not lend itself to this being that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Gable Steveson, probably round 1 KO. I mean, that's...
Hate to say it. And, maybe with the little bit of UFC experience that Ellison has had, he made some adjustments and can get it a little bit later in the fight. But, again, the wrestling in the back pocket, which I always think is a little bit of a cop-out card to play, when it comes to like the fighter stats and all that. With Steveson, it does check out. I mean, the guy is about as credentialed as you can possibly get when it comes to freestyle wrestling. I would say that if he does have to panic shoot at any time, or, decides that he wants to level change, it's going to be a big problem for Ellison and anyone else at heavyweight. So there's a lot of factors at play besides the knockout power and the striking. It makes him a formidable opponent, even with it being his debut.
Absolutely.
All right. So that being said, you taking Gable?
I'm definitely taking Gable. Unfortunately, as much as I dislike a lot of things that has been surrounding his image.
Yeah, indeed. Search Gable Steveson loophole if you want more information about all of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to the next fight. I am also taking Gable, by the way.
Gotcha.
All right, next fight. This is our featured prelim here, and of course, this is an interesting one. This is Nikita Krylov, and he is facing Robert Whitaker. Of course, Robert Whitaker making his debut at light heavyweight in this fight. Krylov is 31-11. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Modestas Bukauskas by knockout, Ryan Spann by submission, and Volkan Oezdemir by unanimous decision. His losses are to Bogdan Guskov and Dominic Reyes, both by knockout. 13 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out 3 times. He has 16 submission wins. He has been submitted 6 times. Robert Whittaker is 27-9. He is 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are over Ikram Aliskirov by knockout and Paulo Costa by unanimous decision. His losses are to Rainier de Ritter by split decision, Khamzat Chimaev by submission, and Dricus du Plessis by knockout. He has 11 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out 3 times. He has 5 wins by submission. He has been submitted twice. And as I said, this is his light heavyweight debut.
This one is interesting. Of course, Bobby Knuckles moving up is always going to be something, that stands out as people moving weight classes and things like that. Nikita Krylov is notably somebody that when I first saw him against Dominic Reyes, I said, this dude clearly is not it. I mean, he's been around for so long and he just walked straight into a 1-2 of a dude who only throws 1-2s, like it really did speak to me like, what the fuck am I seeing here? Okay, next fight. Gushkov, same thing, beats him up, finishes him. Cool. I'm thinking this Krylov dude's not very good. Well, he comes into the Modestas Bukauskas fight, and as you guys know, I don't think that guy was ever it. I've tried to believe, I tried to have hope, but Krylov being the guy to finish him makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Like, that is how bottom of the barrel you actually showed yourself to be. Anybody can have a bad night, but if you have a bad night against somebody who always has bad nights, I don't know what to fucking tell you there. So coming into this fight, initially, what I want to think is that Krylov and Rainier de Ritter have like the exact same build and like style. Like, it's walk forward, smash elbows and knees, just get your hands on him kind of deal. Robert Whittaker was able to, keep the fight at his range with RDR. He didn't necessarily have the greatest. He knocked him down, and that's where I'm getting to, of course. But he was losing the fight on the feet. RDR was just walking through him. Bobby Knuckles was trying. He was keeping his distance, and it not necessarily going the way that it should have. And then he gets the big drop, and then, it is what it is. Krylov is still susceptible to that same type of thing. The interesting thing about Krylov is that, yes, he's only been finished 3 times. 1 time was his UFC debut. The other 2 times were the last 2 performances before his last win.
But knocked out 3 times.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, Krylov. And
Right.
so he's not necessarily susceptible as of his entire career, but in his last 3 bouts, he's been knocked out 2 of the 3 times of his whole career. So Robert Whittaker coming in here, I don't think this is to just show up and get a check and just be out. This is not him just chilling on the couch and ready to get paid. This is a decision by him and his team to go move up. We're going to have an idea of what we want to accomplish. There's matchups here that we could definitely make something happen with. Krylov is the first step to establish yourself as that light heavyweight fighter. Paulo Costa, he had to establish himself as the light heavyweight, version of himself. Robert Whittaker, that shot that he landed on RDR, he waited, and then he just went with the overhand right when RDR came in with a knee. I could totally see Nikita Krylov trying to throw this fucking blind knee, hands down, trying to grab a hold of him, and just gets chinned, and I'm not saying it's the best pick of the night, but I want to believe that Robert Whittaker can do something if he sets his mind to it, because he is one of the greater guys that we've had to never hold gold, right? He was never the interim. Yeah, right. There we go.
Absolutely. No, I mean, look, all of the things that you are saying speak very right to the heart of Thinker St. James here, because Robert Whittaker is one of my all-time favorites. I think he's one of the great guys of this sport, and in his heyday was one of the best. But big but on this one for 2 reasons. One, you say about his preparation for this fight. I will never forget. It's just one of those things that unfortunately sticks out in my mind. I will never forget the lead up to the Khamzat Chimaev fight, where he said, we are specifically training for everything that Khamzat brings to this fight. I know that you can train, and Khamzat's going to do what he wants to do anyway.
DDP said the same thing too. Like, let's, I get
fair,
continue.
Fair. I mean, all fair, but my point in saying it is that you can train for a specific thing and it still not go your way. And that is, potentially what we have here, training to be the next guy at light heavyweight. I mean, at 35 years old, making the move up, I don't know. And now granted, Krylov has been knocked out recently, as you're saying. This could be a big difference there as well. I don't care what these stats say. Robert Whittaker at 6 foot does not track to me. He was an undersized middleweight. He's going to be a very undersized light heavyweight to me as well. Krylov, a natural light heavyweight, or at least more so than Robert Whittaker to me. I don't know, man. I hate that this is happening because I never thought that this was a good idea when I first heard it being floated. I did not think Robert Whittaker at light heavyweight was a good idea. Now we are seeing it actually happen here. Krylov, I think, is the perfect matchup for him to enter this division. I just don't know if it's going to go his way.
just because I want to be on the side of Robert Whittaker. Because listen, you can train for Hamzat all you want. He'll get the takedown. He'll take you down. He took Strickland down in that first round, and he got his arm around his neck. Whatever you want to say. Strickland had the game plan to play the long haul, and then obviously Hamzat just decided not to fucking take him down in the second. That's a different story. Same thing with DDP, taken down in the first round. The choke was in, but they were just able to not get submitted to it, kind of deal. Same thing with Robert Whittaker. He gets taken down, but his mouth gives in. Like, he literally went through a horrific injury. It wasn't necessarily he tapped early. Like, bro, his literal jaw was broken, kind of deal. It was dislocated inward from the choke. It's not necessarily he just didn't have the right game plan. I mean, it was a horrific injury that doesn't ever happen, kind of deal. We were thinking Hamzat is like superhuman after this, like.
Well, I mean, you're still speaking to the same point, though, is that it doesn't matter how much you train for a specific thing; things will happen that you are not anticipating, and or you might you can train all you want for one specific thing, and even that might not be enough. Is all I'm saying. And I don't want to believe it about Robert Whittaker. I'm not trying to be a hater here.
I just think the point specific to Robert Whittaker and the Hamzat fight, losing hope that, yes, he one time said, I'd train my life for Hamzat, and then he gets taken down and submitted by him. Yes, I understand that, but it was a horrific injury. That was the reason that the fight ended that way. He could have trained for a long game, just like all the other ones did. We don't know that because, again, a horrific injury took him out of the equation on that. This is an iron chin of will you, a steel-plated Robert Whittaker heading up to light heavyweight. And I think this is the easiest route for him to establish himself, maybe, because Krylov is susceptible.
And that's what I kind of mentioned that, this is the best fight that he could possibly be entering this division with Krylov at where he is at currently. I mean, this is a battle-tested Krylov, 31-11 at this point. I mean, this is one of those guys whose record is like ballooned at this point. So, he's done his rounds. He is, as tenured as it gets. He's also been faltering in a couple of his recent fights. Both of his last losses by knockout. Modestus Bukowski is a dude who is easily punked at this point. Unfortunately, I thought that maybe it was a little bit different. We know that that's not the case with the last performance here. This is a good position for Whittaker to be entering this division for sure. Does he end up getting the job done against Krylov as a guy who, like I said, I believe is undersized for the division? Power should translate for sure. He's a power striker first and foremost. He does have 5 wins by submission. This is a dude who has been submitted 6 times, Nikita Krylov. I mean, there's potential there. Maybe if he can club and sub him. I mean, there are, like, when we talk about paths to victory, I certainly see them for Robert Whittaker here. But I also see all of the other elements that make this a very interesting fight, of course, but also give me pause.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. This is definitely an interesting situation. I'm gonna believe in Robert Whittaker over Nikita Krylov because from what I've seen, it goes to what you said about Cody Garbrandt. Just bad decisions. This guy, whether they were good decisions in his heyday because he could take the offense that they give and he could just muscle his way through everything. Krylov I know these are big power strikers that he took shots from and got knocked out, of course, but Robert Whittaker, we don't know what he's going to look like at light heavyweight. He's been gone for a really long time. He might have bulked up pretty decently.
Yeah, and that's the crazy thing. I mean, we've been seeing all kinds of, training footage of McGregor, and we'll talk about that fight, of course. And we've been seeing a lot of other fighters, showcasing what they look like. Robert Whittaker, very, very conspicuously absent from the conversation when it comes to this debut. I don't know what that means. I mean, maybe he's going to come out, with some, secret weapon type of situation or looking like a machine. We're going to have to see all of the details once the weigh-ins happen and, how all of that looks and everything. I want to believe in Robert Whittaker as well. I do think that if there's going to be a win at light heavyweight, this should be the fight for it. So I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker as well in this fight, but I am going with all of what I said. And if this does not go his way, I'm going to really be kicking myself because I had said, again, when this was announced, I said that this was a bad idea. I did not like this move up. I think that, the size is going to be an issue here. I think if he can catch Nikita Krylov the same way that Dominic Reyes did. Obviously, Krylov left his chin open enough to be caught by him. Whitaker's still probably fast enough to find that shot. I got to hope that that's going to be a situation like that. I can already hear John Anik screaming, welcome to light heavyweight, Robert Whitaker on the broadcast. But if it does not go that way, then I will be a little upset at myself because I am skeptical of all of this.
So at the end of the day, who's your pick?
I'm gonna go with Robert Whitaker. I'm going against my better judgment here. I really do feel, but I think that hopefully the power, because look, the power is going to only increase, right? I mean, bulking up, getting more weight on the frame. He's already a power striker. I got to believe that that's going to be the thing against the guy who's been knocked out recently multiple times. I got to think that that's going to be the thing that carries. But if this does not, go his way, or if it goes into later rounds and he's getting clinched up on the cage, muscled around kind of thing, I mean, there again, I do not buy him at 6 foot to begin with, but there's just too many factors that make this really unfortunate if he doesn't end up winning this, and that's why I'm going to be kicking myself.
Yeah, I hear you, but we are both going Robert Whitaker. It's good to hear.
And I'm going to be. I'm going to be on the broadcast, on the watch along. I'm going to be saying, man, I let my fandom get in the way of my better judgment, perhaps. But I'm hoping that that's not the case. Let Robert Whitaker show us that this is the right place for you.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving on. This is the fight everybody is talking about. This is King Green versus Terrence McKinney, T-Rex. King Green is 35-17-1. Goddamn. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Jeremy Stephens by submission, Daniel Zellhuber by knockout, and Lance Gibson Jr. by split decision. His losses are to Mauricio Hufi by knockout and Paddy Pimblett by submission. He has 12 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out 6 times. He has 10 wins by submission. He has been submitted 3 times. Terrence McKinney is 18-8. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Kyle Nelson and Damir Hadzovic, both by knockout, and Visislav Borshov by submission. His losses are to Chris Duncan by submission and Esteban Ribovics by knockout. He has 9 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out 5 times. He has 9 wins by submission. He has been submitted 3 times. He has only seen a third round once in his career pre-UFC. Only seen a second round twice in the UFC, 17 of 18 wins in the first round for him. He has never gone to decision in his entire career.
Well, before we get into this, of course, there's a lot to break down there, but I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
What do you remember what Bobby Green asked for in his last fight? In his post-fight speech?
Yeah. Well, he wanted a bonus, but he ended up getting custom shorts.
Yes, so he got custom shorts. Do you remember what type of custom shorts he requested?
No, do refresh me.
The Apollo Creed style shorts. So he wanted that. Mm-hmm. Have you seen the images of his shorts?
They did not look like Apollo Creed shorts. However, what I will say to this, because I did see this narrative going around, there was another fighter. I forget his name off the top of my head, but it was in bare knuckle. It was in BKFC. Mm-hmm. A guy who came in with the Apollo Creed look and got viciously knocked out. So maybe the Apollo Creed shorts, not the best base for combat sports.
Well, I just find it really funny because, obviously he asked for the Apollo Creed. That's one thing. But if you remember that old meme of Bobby Green and it's like fight style and it says hood, like that's literally the shorts they gave him. They were like, oh, Apollo Creed. No. You're the hood guy, right? That's why we got to give you the red striped bandana shorts. Like what in the world?
I thought you were going to reference the meme of like the offer meme, and it was him saying, I offer you, quality fights. We offer you whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
You ask for bonus, we give you shorts, not the ones you asked for.
Absolutely. But no, so this fight itself, I mean, it is interesting because while King Green, not Robert anymore, King Green himself has proven me wrong plenty of times. I mean, I've seen him get beat up and knocked out and choked out, but there are times where I don't pick him and he wins. That's because I often don't pick him. That is just how it goes, unfortunately. Not because he's bad, not necessarily because he's whatever. He is a very skilled fighter. He actually is I'm not gonna lie, he is kind of one of my favorites. This dude punks a lot of people out. He really comes to fight this. He does this fight shit at 39 years old. He's really still about it. He's going. There you go. Exactly. He's going up against Terrence McKinney, who's one of the scarier dudes in the division because he never sees, decisions. This is a fight that you're either going to win or you're going to lose inside the distance kind of deal. And the thing that I think is interesting about King Green is people who are not necessarily as quick of finishers. You have somebody like Paddy Pimblett, who is a finisher, but first round submission. Okay, all right, we're cooking here. That was pretty quick. Mauricio Hoofy, I mean, he got to a couple rounds with some other people, but first round with Bobby Green. Terrence McKinney is the king of first rounds. I mean, how is he not going to do it if the other people are doing it who aren't first round phenoms normally? He is. I mean, this is like Manuel Torres all over again. I mean, everybody. Now, obviously, Manuel Torres had a different path, and he was able to showcase his skills in a different way to get where he's at. Terrence McKinney has had some ups and downs, but King Green has had his moment. We've seen him lose. We've seen him win. If you want to pick him, I don't blame you. If you're a fan of Bobby Green, go ahead. But Terrence McKinney, that's my guy, man. I'm a root for him, whether or not that last fight was a little bogus with Kyle Nelson or not. So,
This is about as tough as it comes when it comes to predicting for me, and I'll tell you why. Every time in recent memory that I have picked against King Green, he has ended up pulling out the win. I mean, this is a dude who, I think he's like constantly overcoming the odds, and like, then you end up seeing these knockouts that are vicious sometimes on the other side. So it's like up and down. But Terrence McKinney, same boat. I mean, dude got submitted by Chris Duncan. It's like that fight ended up being more competitive early on than I think that the people were anticipating it being. This is like, two trains running at each other, and who's going to be the stronger chassis or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, who's going to have the stronger infrastructure. God, again, this is like really a coin flip to me based on the way that both these guys fight. I think that the only reason that I am going to go to ride with King Green in this fight is because I believe that he is going to have a better method of dealing with the pressure from Terrence McKinney than some of these other fighters have. I think that he has the ability to make, because Terrence McKinney runs in like a wrecking ball in all of these fights. I think Bobby Green has the ability to sidestep that. I think he has the wherewithal. I mean, like, that's the other thing too. You got to believe that these people that are fighting Terrence McKinney know exactly what they're getting into when they fight him at this point. I mean, he does the same thing every single time that he fights. You have to plan for the exact same thing. So it's like, it should be an easy planning process, but it's certainly a difficult task regardless. I want to believe that with the veteran savvy of King Green at this point, having, gone through some pretty decent fights, that have been more competitive with some pretty solid power strikers in the past, that he's going to be able to figure out a way to get out of that, get out of danger early enough in this fight and catch Terrence McKinney off guard.
I don't love it, but I will accept that that's what you're going with. I'm glad, because I'm going to take Terrence McKinney to do the exact same thing that he always does. He's going to walk in there, walk forward, hands down. King Green, obviously, hands are going to be even lower. This is going to be a who's going to defend first kind of fight, like Jesus Christ. But Terrence McKinney, I think the sub threat is really. I mean, obviously, Bobby Green does have good BJJ. He submitted Tony Ferguson for God's sakes, But Terrence McKinney, just the lightning in a bottle kind of performance that he always is able to pull out in the first round. I think he'll probably get a good flurry on him. We get to the ground and Terrence McKinney gets like a Darce choke or something. I don't think it'll be the knockout that everybody's thinking, but I could be wrong. I would love to be.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, look, this is about as a coin flip as it gets for me. So I mean, like, don't think that I'm like super confident in the King Green pick. But I want to believe that King Green, knowing what you're getting into with Terrence McKinney, has an ace up his sleeve of some type. And like I said, every time that I have doubted him, he's turning into an Angela Hill syndrome over here for me. I mean, like, where every time I pick him, he loses, and every time that I don't, he wins. But yeah, I gotta believe that there is an answer for what McKinney brings to the table, because you gotta know. I mean, with Bobby Green, like, it's at least there's a more of a variation. I mean, the Lance Gibson fight should be a big example of why, you can't necessarily just count on Bobby Green to do the same thing in every fight. Really depends on the opponent. But if your opponent is going to be playing ball the way that McKinney does, I got to believe that he has an answer for that, meets him halfway, and then goes beyond.
Absolutely. No, I love this fight. This will be a good one. The people's main event is what I've heard.
Exactly. Yes. The people's main event is certainly applicable to this fight. I think it's going to be exactly the fireworks that we're expecting. Don't blink. It's one
Yeah,
of those fights.
absolutely.
All right. Well, we are split on that one. Let's see if we are split on this one as well. This is Brandon Royval. He is fighting Lanier Kavanaugh. I love this fight. This is Royval, who is 17-9, he is 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are over Tatsuro Taira and Brandon Moreno, both by split decision. His losses are to Manel Kopp by knockout, Joshua Van and Alessandro Pantoja, both by unanimous decision. He has 4 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out twice. He has 9 wins by submission. He has been submitted once. His last win was in 2024. He had 0 wins in 2025. Lanier Kavanaugh is 10-1. He is 3-1 in the UFC after a win on the Contender Series by knockout. His wins are over Brendan Moreno and Felipe Dos Santos and Jose Ochoa, all by unanimous decision, and his losses to Charles Johnson by knockout. 4 wins by knockout. Knocked out 1 time for Kavanaugh, 1 win by submission. He has never been submitted.
I'm looking at the record here, and yeah, I have confirmation that I am going to make the best pick here, of course, because Brandon Royval, guys, been around for as long as it is. This dude is a veteran when it comes to the name. He has challenged for the belt against one of the best title holders that's ever been in the sport, kind of deal. Not necessarily just because he lost the first time, he came back and lost the second time. This is good experience. He didn't get finished the second time that he fought him or whatever. This is also somebody who has been finishing people who are good for as long as it has been. These are not people that are just bums. When you look at Brandon Royval's record and you see that he submitted people like Tim Elliott, that's pretty fucking good to me. I mean, for somebody who's a striker who has just, back pocket kind of BJJ, I mean, this dude seems to be pretty damn good to me. But that's aside from, the things that have happened in recent, obviously he got knocked out by Manel Cap, who we are all seeing has had this otherworldly power in his hands or in his DNA or whatever we're going coursing through his veins. I don't know. Brandon Royval, though, the loss before that, Josh Van, of course, it was a close fight. Wasn't necessarily the closest. He wasn't going to win, but it was a close fight. That is the current champ. It was what it was. Before that, the dude who just challenged for the belt, he just beat him. 3 fights ago, he just beat the dude who challenged for the belt. So there's still something there. And Lanier Kavanaugh, it kind of goes back to I forget who I was saying it about. Oh, with John Garza. There's no legitimate reason for you to have, like, yes, he beat Brandon Moreno, 100% styled on him. But for some reason, I don't buy into that yet. There was something up with Moreno. There was something in the air that night. I just can't believe that was him. So Lonnie, excuse me. If you beat Brandon Moreno, I don't care how you do it. If you beat him, I listen. I'm a fan, but you have to get through certain people that make me understand that you are going to be somewhere else. Brandon Royval, if you get through him, that's pretty damn good. But the thing is Brandon Royval is a tough customer. He's got the hands on the feet. He's got a very unique style on the feet is actually where it comes down to. He throws a lot of interesting strikes. He throws, the knee up and then he jabs right after. It's unique, but the grappling is where I think it's going to be interesting. Kavanaugh obviously has the power. Everybody faces people who have power. That again, Brandon Royval has been doing it for a lifetime. Manel Cap caught him. We won't worry about that just yet because he's still 33 years old. This isn't like a cry for help situation. Brandon Royval could make you guys remember that flyweight is very, very competitive, and that Brandon Moreno might have just had an off night or something. So
that's really how I felt about that fight. I was very confident in Brandon Moreno in that one, and I very distinctly remember watching that fight in disbelief at how he was fighting. I think he allowed a lot of things to happen in that fight that I was not expecting him to allow. I got to believe that Brandon Royval does not allow those same things. And I think that you're exactly correct that the grappling is going to be the big decider here. Fight of the year contender with Tatsuro Taira, who, just had another fight of the year contender with Joshua Van. Obviously Taira is a phenom in the grappling department, and Brandon Royval was able to eke out the split decision win over him. Close fight, of course. I don't think that Kavanaugh brings that same level of proficiency on the ground, at least not yet, and not in his career just yet. I really think that a lot of what you said tracks when it comes to Royval, and it is kind of a situation like exactly what you're saying. Like people forget very quickly after you've been knocked out by Manel Kopp and lose to Alessandro Pantoja, the former champion, and Joshua Van, the current champion. But those are like those losses age tremendously well based on the level of where those people are at in the division.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon Moreno, he, beat Kavanaugh beat Brandon Moreno, but Royval also beat Brandon Moreno. That was a split decision there too. That was back when Moreno was still fighting more like himself. So, I mean, I got to believe that there is still more for Brandon Royval here. He's always been one of my favorite fighters. He's a dog, Raw Dog is the exact right nickname for him. I just think that, as long as he does not try to make this a firefight on the feet, because, Kavanaugh does, I see Carlos in the chat, talking about the striking of Kavanaugh. No one is disputing that Kavanaugh is a proficient striker. He's certainly becoming a formidable member of the flyweight division. And I do see great things for him in the future. I think that this is going to be one of those losses that he learns from kind of thing. I think that he's going to end up being better after this fight, regardless of the outcome. But I got to ride with Brandon Royval on this one, man. I mean, he's done too much for me to not believe. But again, like you said, exactly like you said, Chase, if Kavanaugh wins this fight, then I think that really you've seen the line, the one line going up, one line going down. That is the nexus point of that, where, like now you really know that that's the trajectory. But until I see that, I can't confidently say Kavanaugh is going to be on that path.
What I will say about Kavanaugh, though, win or lose, I'm very grateful for him to have been able to take that fight against Moreno, because now his name is up in the mix with people that it should be. These are the fights that he needs to be having. Brandon Royval, Tatsuro Taira, Brandon Moreno, anybody that you can think of in flyweight. Lonnie Kavanaugh is a formidable opponent for all of them. And Carlos was talking about him being the next champ. Believe me, I don't know if it's immediately next. There's a lot of stuff going on. But Kavanaugh will get an opportunity for sure.
Look, he's going to be, if he ends up losing this fight, if he loses this fight, he will be 10-2. That is still fine. He will go and he will fight Steve Erceg. He will win against Steve Erceg. He's right back in the equation. This is not going to be a crazy setback if he loses this fight. Also against Brandon Royval, who is, not where he once was now at this point. This, I think, is really good matchmaking for both of them right now. And, this division, flyweight, has been a little bit of a rotating carousel. So I also like that Kavanaugh is now in the mix. He's bringing a little bit of new blood into the division, which is needed, considering that it was a little bit of a rotation before Josh Van spoiled the party. That being said, I think it's still a little bit early for Kavanaugh to be at that elite level, even after beating Brandon Moreno, who I do consider an elite fighter, even with the off night that he had against him.
Absolutely. This is going to be an interesting fight, though. Again, this card is full of some really good fights. Not necessarily my favorite, these are not like my fan favorites, of course, but these are really good matchups for a lot.
Absolutely. Quality matchmaking here. And like you said, this could be a crazy victory for Kavanaugh if he does end up pulling this off. So, would I be tremendously surprised if he wins this fight? No. I mean, I think that he is good enough to possibly win it, but I do think that Royval, I mean, he's just so tenured, and it's like, it's not even tenured with where like you have a lot of caveats, you know what I mean? It's a lot of times of really solid quality dogfight victories. He's just a guy that goes for it, and Kavanaugh still needs to prove that.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to the next one. Anyway, let me get myself together here. All right, there we go. Corey Sandhagen is fighting Mario Bautista. Sandhagen is 18-6. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Davison Figueiredo by TKO, Rob Font by unanimous decision, and Marlon Chito Vera by split decision. His losses are to Umar Nurmagomedov and Merab Dvalishvili, both by unanimous decision. He has 8 wins by knockout. He has never been knocked out. 3 wins by submission. He has been submitted 1 time. Aside from Umar, he has only lost in the UFC to former or current champions, lost to Jamal Emmers 1 time in LFA. Bautista is 17-3. He is 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Vinicius Oliveira by sub, Patchy Mix and Ricky Simone, both by unanimous decision, and Jose Aldo by split decision. His loss is to Umar Nurmagomedov by unanimous decision. He has 3 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out once. He has 7 wins by submission. He has been submitted once. 8-fight win streak prior to the Umar loss.
Last thing to mention, if this is a rematch, Corey has a win over Mario Bautista already in the organization. It happened very early on in their careers, of course.
All right.
This one is interesting because while I do believe that Mario Bautista has the skill set to do what a Merab has or an Umar could do, he could just wrestle fuck. But From what I've seen in the clips and from what I understand, Corey Sandhagen has just got his number in the grappling. Anytime Mario was doing stuff in that first match, Corey just levels above in the grappling. So I don't want to necessarily believe that Mario's going to come in here and just have his way. Like what he was doing with Jose Aldo, just shove him up against the cage and just fuck off. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But I do believe in Mario Batista. This is somebody that for some reason, guys, I can't tell you what it is. I've been a fan of Mario Batista. I've been a fan of him, and I think he is a very good skill set in the division. And he's not your flashiest, he's not your flair, but he is a good, formidable opponent for a lot of people. This being a rematch, I think, makes a total lot of sense. We're towards the top of the division. If people are going to be hanging around like Corey Sandhagen and they're not going to get past certain people, cool. He needs to start fighting people who are also not getting past certain people. Umar, Marab, whatever, just kind of wipe them out the equation right now. Anybody else is fair game, though. So this fight, I love it for the idea that Corey Sandhagen, you said he's never been knocked out. I just saw him wobbled against fucking Marab in his last fight. You better never think that he's safe because Mario Batista's got hands. And I know it didn't happen before, but Corey Sandhagen, you could be, what is this, 24 pro fights and you've never been knocked out? I think you might have a little more confidence going into each fight. Like, nobody's ever done it, I don't have to, but Corey's a smart guy. I always hear that he's like the fucking MMA IQ god. I don't know. He's annoying to me. But Mario Batista, I can tell you this. He'll put some hands on him. I'm thinking if Marab can get you guessing enough that he could wobble you with the strikes, in the rematch, it's not going to go the same way. Mario Batista, he's felt it. He knows what I'm going Mario Batista, guys, because one, I could never go Corey Sandhagen at this point. He really annoys me. He's not necessarily as good as everybody thinks he is, in my opinion. But Mario Batista is somebody that I think is earning his opportunity, not fucking whatever the hell Corey's got over here with his YouTube channel. So
yeah, I mean, I think that Bautista's biggest, like the biggest gripe that people have with him is that he's a boring fighter to a lot of people. I mean, I think that really is, and a lot of people hate him.
And
because
what's Corey?
Well, I mean, Corey is a little bit more versatile, but the problem with Corey Sandhagen is that I've seen him not do I don't want talk about the fight IQ, and I'm not saying that he has a low fight IQ. Quite the opposite, of course. But I have seen him make questionable decisions when it comes to certain fights. And I go back, I've referenced this before, but I think it's applicable here too. I go back to the Umar fight. He was doing everything right in that fight to get out of the things that the traps that Umar sets. He was getting out of all of them, but not backfilling it with the striking that he needed to. I think that things like that translate. I mean, I don't think that Bautista fights like Umar necessarily, and obviously Umar beat him. But I think that those types of holes in like the style that he brings to any one fight do somewhat translate here. I think that Sandhagen thinking that he can get creative with Bautista. Bautista is a dude who is just a solid baseline fighter. I mean, he's got all of the the stat bar in the video game. They're all just even for him as far as I'm concerned. He's he's just solid in all areas. Like he's like the standard issue fighter that you can go to some of the other players in the game and maybe they have the the stats are different. He's got all of them down the line even. And I think that base translates well here. But Sandhagen is a dude who, aside from the elites, he might not necessarily be elite himself, but he has proven that if you are not of that caliber, he can beat you. So I don't know. I mean, how does that all translate to this fight specifically? It's going to be interesting. And having a win over him already, he knows what he's getting into.
I think what's interesting, and this is where I think I'm leading the most. This was Mario Batista's UFC debut against Corey Sandhagen. He takes a loss. Okay, big whoop. He loses a little later to Trevin Jones, gets knocked out. Whatever. We've moved on from their 8-fight win streak since Umar. That is a big loss to Mario Batista. He's only got 3 of them things. One of them happens to be on his UFC debut to a dude that he knows is in his grasp right now. I think this is going to mean more to Mario Batista than one of Corey's 18 wins. This doesn't really mean anything to him. Where does the passion come for Corey for this fight? I've already beat him. I don't have to. I can do it. I can just do it again. I had the answers. I'll just have them again. Corey's this. I get this level of arrogance from him that he thinks that he can fucking rule the world with his skill set, dude. And It's just not the fucking case. Again, you said it was to former champs, so why would he have to worry? I feel like this is prime example for Mario Batista to come in here with a level of intensity that he just didn't have that first time. That's it. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it was short notice. It was a reason that Mario Batista got an opportunity against Corey Sandhagen on his debut, kind of deal. But whatever the case may be, times are changed. This is a grown man. This is a 33-year-old man now. Mario Batista, let's get this win, brother. I'm rooting for you.
Yeah, I am a fan of Mario Bautista myself. I just, Corey, it's tough because I've always wanted to believe that Corey was that elite fighter, and I do think that he is, right at that point right before elite. He is great, but he's just knocking on elite's door, and it just never ends up opening for him. Bautista, hard to say that he is going to be, busting through that barrier. And I think that that's also what this fight kind of represents, is that if Mario Bautista is that guy, if he is, a dude who is going to be hanging with the elites of the division, this is a must-win fight for him at this point. Because, it's like you have a win. Again, you go over these recent win over Vinicius Oliveira. We know what happened with him. Obviously, he's doing different things now in a different division. Patchy Mix, out of the organization. Ricky Simone, unanimous decision, and then Jose Aldo basically on the tail end of his career. These wins are not necessarily screaming elite caliber to me. The loss to Umar beat both of these guys. He has proven himself to be more of an elite caliber fighter. I just don't know if Bautista is that guy. And I like I said, I am a fan of him. I think he is a very well-rounded, technically proficient fighter. I just think that Corey might have more tricks in the bag.
I would love to see it because I, for one, have not been fooled by Corey Sandhagen. I don't believe he is a wizard inside of the cage. I for one agree with with 10-7. Corey did nothing against Umar. You said he had the answers and did nothing to capitalize. Hey, for me, he sat in his lap for 25 minutes. That's exactly what I saw Corey Sandhagen do, and that was after months of hearing his YouTube fucking babble about how he's got the golden fucking answer for Umar. I'm gonna be the one to shut down this whole family's fucking grappling style. He didn't do that.
He did not. That is patently false. He did do that. He just didn't do anything. If you recall that fight, he was getting back to his feet consistently, getting out of the grappling situations. He was consistently able to break the grip and get out of the danger zone, but he never did any offense to backfill that. That was the problem. That's what I saw in that fight. So, to say that he sat in his lap, I think is incorrect.
I'll concede. I'll be with you on this one, but I am still going to take Mario Batista. Who would you be taking on this?
I'm going Corey Sandhagen on this one. I think that I just based on the level of competition, I think that that's what I'm going to go with. And again, bringing up the Aldo fight, why everybody hates Mario Bautista. I don't think that he's going to be able to clinch Corey Sandhagen up against the cage for an entire round.
No, probably not. But I think he's going to school him on the feet for sure. I think Corey thinks he's a wizard, and Mario Batista is going to show you that an old school dog can get it done sometimes. I'm going to believe in him.
I'm okay with it, man. Like I said, I've always been a fan of Mario Bautista, and hopefully he is leveling like this. Like I said, this is right at the cusp. So if you want to be an elite fighter in this sport, this is the fight that you have to win to prove that, because this guy who you are fighting has knocked on that door several times at this point and has not been able to bust through. You beat him, you bust through. So let him do it.
Absolutely.
All right, I like it. Let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. Of course, this is Benoit Saint Denis versus Paddy Pimblett. Saint Denis is 17-3. He is 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Dan Hooker and Beneil Dariush, both by knockout, Mauricio Hufi and Kyle Prepelic, both by submission. His loss is to Renato Moicano by doctor's stoppage TKO. He has 6 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out twice. He has 11 wins by submission. He has never been submitted. 4-fight win streak since the Moicano loss. Paddy Pimblett is 23-4. He is 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Michael Chandler by knockout, King Green by submission, Tony Ferguson and Jared Gordon, both by unanimous decision. His loss is to Justin Gaethje by unanimous decision. 7 wins by knockout. He has never been knocked out. Scousers don't get knocked out. He has 10 wins by submission. He has been submitted 1 time. 9-fight win streak before the Justin Gaethje loss. That loss is also his only loss in the UFC.
what I'll say initially to this fight specifically is this is the fight between the guys that they were pushing really hard to get title fights. Like they wanted these guys to be the champs as quick as possible. They needed a French champ, they needed an English champ. We got to get those guys as soon as we can. So after they beat people like such and such and a such and such, Bobby Green, of course, for Patty, and then Michael Chandler, it's like title shot instantly, give it to him. BSD, they give him the opportunity against Dustin Poirier. That was going to be the title shot right there after that. And he obviously, has staff, which apparently he potentially could have this time as well. That's another, thing that's going on. But then you look at the people that they've given him on his comeback: Dariush, Hooker, brother. These are not people that make me think that you're fucking good. I just saw you get battered by Moicano too. Like, that's the horrible part, So
Sub Prep or subbed Hoofy.
do you not? Okay, subbed Hoofy is good, but I'm never. Well,
Yeah, Prep like that. Yeah, sorry.
That one
that don't
definitely
count.
is crazy. That one was crazy.
That
So,
should
yeah,
never have happened.
so that one, aside from it, you're right with the Hoofy one. I give you this, but Paddy Pimblett has grappling. He's not like Hoofy, who needed to adapt on the fly to grappling and start
Very
learning
true.
more and more. Paddy has that grappling. The thing about Paddy also is, from his recent track record, I mean, subbing Bobby Green and then finishing Michael Chandler. That is speaking more to me than fucking Prepelic and Hooker and Dariush. Those are hand me wins right there, kind of deal. Like, those are like, you're obviously going to finish those people. So that's why it kind of feels like they really want this French lightweight champ. They are giving Dariush every walk in the park. And then now they're potentially thinking the same thing. It's like, okay, this is a guy, yes, he went up against Justin, but he fluked in the main event. Like, he's not our guy anymore, kind of deal. So let's give him to BSD. BSD can go ahead and finish him. But I think that's incorrect. I think Paddy, way more of a versatile finisher. BSD is kind of a one-trick pony. I mean, he throws body kicks and then he just shoves his face right into your fucking hips. Paddy might be able to just, hey, listen, Dustin Poirier was working the guillotine. It didn't work for him, but he was still working it enough to make it a threat where BSD had to shake him off and get back to the stand-up. If Paddy's not going to get knocked out, especially with how BSD strikes and his type of, like, what he did to Dariush, that was the craziest thing ever. Like, Dariush is clearly done after that.
Yeah.
Paddy, on the other hand, he's got a chin on him. He keeps it high, but Benoit's not the type of dude to put a pressure on your defensive stance. Like, he's just going to throw something and then just try to tackle you. Paddy might be able to work the guillotine, get it back to the feet. If not work it to get back to the feet, he will finish it. The thing that I'm worried about is if Paddy tries to do some, like, if he jumps for the gilly and tries to lock it in, now he's on bottom, and now you're under BSD with the grappling. So that would be the main issue, is if Paddy really commits to one of these chokes and it really bites him in the butt. But I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I think Paddy is just. I would hope, from what I have seen from Paddy, he's got 25 minutes with the champ, and the champ just battered somebody else. So I'm going to go ahead and say Paddy has got this one in the bag, because BSD, when he looks bad, he looks bad. Paddy has looked bad, and he's still skated by with some decisions, kind of deal. So
I mean, really, I think you hit the nail on the head with that last statement. Going back to the Renato Moicano fight with BSD, and just the way that Moicano was able to just chip away almost systematically with a broken clavicle bone, if you recall, there too. I mean, shoulder bone that was not 100% correct and not healed up. That really speaks to, I think, something that Paddy has a prime opportunity to do very similar. I mean, like, I would say that at this point, Paddy Pimblett, an evolved version of Moicano to an extent, maybe in certain ways. I mean, like, this a dude who has a similar skill set and uses it pretty effectively against guys just like BSD. I mean, like, guys who are the tough people. I mean, like, he's gotten some pretty solid wins, some of them a little bit more hand me wins than others. I would certainly admit that, but I've always been of the mindset that, until you prove that you are not the person that like you're proclaiming yourself to be, that, then I will stick with what's working. A loss to Justin ages tremendously well now that he is the champion, and a 5-rounder to boot. And again, we talk a little bit about it, but like, I cannot understate the staph infection issue with BSD. We saw what happened last time he had it. Now granted, everybody said, oh, had he not had it, it could have been completely different. Well, if he's got it fucking again, I mean, like, then we're in the same issue territory here. And he did not have it against Renato Moicano. So that being said, I mean, I just think that there's too many negatives going against BSD in this fight. that Paddy Pimblett has answers for. If it is going to be a stand-up fight, that's what I'm most worried about. I think that the problem that I saw in the Gaethje fight with Paddy Pimblett was that he was way too comfortable on his feet. I think he was trying to prove a point that he could stand and bang with Justin Gaethje. That is never a smart idea. Now that he's even, been proved even more so at this point. Had he level changed early, that fight could have been a little bit different. I hope that he recognizes that, even if he does have some striking that is somewhat effective and can, he can hold his own, that he should not rely on that 100%. Get BSD down, wear him out on the ground. Legitimately, like I said, the Renato Moicano fight should be the blueprint for what you can accomplish here. He wears damage, get some elbows on the ground, start touching him up in positions where you are dominant and comfortable, and then see where the fight plays out thereafter. Do not try to go toe-to-toe with BSD on the feet and think that can carry you for the entirety of this fight. I think it's a tremendously poor game plan if that's his idea.
I personally think Paddy getting it back to the feet here, I don't think is the worst thing. I don't think you want to fuck around with BSD on the ground because whether or not you have the grappling credentials or not, he is strong enough to, if he's on top, I mean, he's probably going to be there until you get him off, So if Paddy is willing to lay on his back thinking his jiu-jitsu is king and he doesn't actually do anything that we can see, then BSD might be able to just skate by.
Well,
I hate to think it.
That's what he can't just hang on his back. I mean, that has to, that cannot be the game plan if you are going to go to the ground. I think you need to be dominant in the wrestling to get to the point where the grappling is effective from top position. But we've seen him able to maneuver in that way. I mean, there are times where he's kind of played that game on his back, but it's not like like something that stands out as like a characteristic. I would say it's maybe more circumstantial. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, this one is definitely an interesting fight, but I agree with 10-7. I'm not the biggest fan of Paddy. I personally do like BSD. I like, he's cool, God of War, but I don't hate Paddy enough to think that he's going to lose this. Paddy is probably going to make it look a little easier than I think a lot of people would expect, is what I would say here.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my ups and downs with Paddy Pimblett, based on some of the way that he navigates his career and all of that. Kind of the personality has clashed a little bit with what I like in a fighter. That aside, I mean, really the only thing that you can fall back on is the Jared Gordon decision, which a lot of people don't agree with. Aside from that, he's kind of earned his stripes. Again, if you're going to say, oh, the strength of competition wasn't that great against an aged Tony Ferguson and King Green, we're literally talking about King Green in a banger fight coming up right now. So I think that maybe doesn't track. Tony Ferguson more so, of course. Michael Chandler also maybe in that camp. I don't see Benoit Saint-Denis, even though I said last year, I believe that Benoit Saint-Denis was one of the most improved. I almost had him as fighter of the year, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
A guy who had won a lot of fights after, taking some losses there. There's just too many potential variables that are in the negative for me with Benoit Saint-Denis in this fight. And again, I cannot stress that staph infection makes a difference, people. It is, it's Justin Gaethje who has to overcome staph to have a tremendous performance to make that where it's like not as much of a thing. Other fighters with staph infection, most certainly of which Benoit Saint-Denis have proven that it is more of an issue than people would want to believe.
No, 100%. Yeah, I think this is gonna be a scrap, guys. I'm really appreciative that they put this fight together because I think this is exactly the type of style that works out that we need to get here. There was one more thing about Paddy that I wanted to I was thinking about while you were talking, but I totally forgot
it. Is it that he braids his hair now?
No, I don't remember what it was. This is ultimately we're going to see the career navigation of Paddy Pimblett go either through the roof or down the gutter. Because if Paddy Pimblett wins this fight and he gets on the mic and he says, Eddie Hearn, get me my title shot, baby, we're fucked. He's done. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. If he announces that he is under the partnership with Eddie Hearn as well, that's, I would say, and personally, I don't think that's the case. I'm just making a joke, of course. If he was going to, he would have done it by now. But I think it is in his best interest to stay away. So that's what I would do.
That would be a tremendous heel turn that I don't think anybody would ever have seen coming. So if that does happen, Chase, then you're going to be getting galaxy brain flowers for that one.
Mm.
Yeah, I love the spice. I love the spice that Eddie Hearn brings to the equation. Do I think that he is effectively handling his fighters in a way that is good for them when it comes to the UFC specifically? Probably not. But again, I am here for the circus. So, dance monkeys, please. Um, that being said, though, yeah, barring that, fight is, strictly speaking about the fight itself, that is where my thought process lies. I think I'm going to go with Paddy Pimblett. I think probably by decision makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we don't actually get told this ahead of time. But if you recall, the last co-main event that was 5 rounds was Aljamain Sterling and Brian Ortega.
I didn't
Why
realize
is
this was
this?
a 5 rounder.
No, it's not. That's why I'm
Oh, okay.
saying like it's unfortunate that we don't know if it is or not. I assume it's not, but all fights like this that are title eliminator kind of dealios, they should be 5 rounds. I don't know why this would be 3 rounds if it is. If Aljamain Sterling and Brian Ortega had 5 rounds after Brian Ortega died in the hospital the day before.
That there's some story behind that fight that needs to come out as to why that would ever have been a 5 rounder to begin with. It's very interesting when they decide to do 5 round fights for non-title fights on card. Like this would have been a perfect perfect card for that, considering that the main event is not a title fight. So I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know why that would be the case, or what goes into that part of the decision making, and why it is so rare when a fight like BSD versus Patty is like a prime candidate for a 5 rounder. Some things are just beyond our scope of knowledge, Chase.
Yep, you are absolutely correct.
All right, but you're also going Patty on this one.
We're both going Patty.
All right. Well, then that is in lockstep. But this main event is certainly one that has a lot of people talking about it from many different angles, a lot of different opinions about this. Obviously it comes with a lot of baggage. We're, of course, talking about Conor McGregor and his big return after 5 years away from the cage versus Max Holloway in their rematch. This, of course, is McGregor versus Holloway 2. McGregor is 22-6. He is 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are over Eddie Alvarez and Donald Cerrone, both by knockout. His losses are to Khabib Nurmagomedov by submission and Dustin Poirier, once by knockout, once by doctor stoppage TKO. 19 wins by knockout. He has been knocked out twice, 1 submission. He has been submitted 4 times. First fight since 2021, 5 years and 7 days to be exact. This is over 1,000 days that McGregor has not fought. His first fight, of course, since the traumatic leg break. Holloway is 27-9. He is 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Dustin Poirier by unanimous decision, Justin Gaethje by knockout, and Chan Sung Jung, aka the Korean Zombie, by knockout. His losses are to Charles Oliveira by unanimous decision and Ilia Topuria by knockout. 12 wins by knockout for Max Holloway. He's been knocked out 1 time. 2 wins by submission. He has been submitted 1 time.
This one, I mean, it obviously is the return of the Max, so everybody's got to get all up in arms that Conor is returning. Yes, it is a big deal. Him against Max Holloway is a tremendously better return than Michael Chandler ever would have been.
We certainly know that now for sure.
Like I not only just like the skill and like just like for legacy wise, like this is somebody who deserves a fight like this against the biggest superstar in the sport. They obviously had the first match, a rematch makes sense. Michael Chandler walks into our fucking promotion, wins fucking 2 bouts, and starts screaming that McGregor's his fucking matchup. No, brother. Thank God we didn't get that, because who cares at the end of the day?
He coached an entire season of The Ultimate Fighter for it, Chase.
I get you, but he'll do what he's fucking told, like, fuck. So you're gonna fight Hoofy at the White House and lose, brother. But so the point is, Max is somebody who, when you break it down, there's no reason for you not to think that he's going to do this. He's on a very productive win rate right now. He's lost to the dude who just lost the belt. He got knocked out, who was knocking everybody out at the time. And that was, in a weight class that was different for him at the time. He had to go back down because he went up. So a lot of different circumstances going on with Ilya specifically. The Charles fight, you can't even say anything about that, bro. He didn't get submitted by Charles Oliveira, which Garbrandt, the fucking credentialed wrestler, apparently, Polish king of grappling, got submitted, by the way. Max didn't, so there's another point there. Max has beaten Justin Gaethje, who is proven that he's fucking good. Now, he did get his nose broke and eye poked and all these other things that happened in the fight for Justin. And then, of course, the buzzer beater knockout. But the point is, Max is looking great. He's still 34 years old. This dude has a lot more in store for his career. Will he finally take his 10th loss? I don't think it's very possible at this point against McGregor. But if you have been keeping up with our review of McGregor forever, you will see that there are some ups and downs in the camp. You know, sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. They are working off of a frequency, you know. We have not seen many tweets from McGregor. We have not seen him in the limelight. What are we to make as if he is going to be as locked in as ever? You know, they were talking about with before Cerrone, you know, McGregor wasn't here to fight people. He wasn't here to do, he wanted to display martial arts. If McGregor is back into the phase that he is here because the love of martial arts, you know, I want to put on a showcase of what my skills are. I would love to see one of the cleaner performances, like as if we saw with Donald Cerrone. That was one of the better performances that he's had. It was very crisp. Everything was to a T. Nothing was labored. It was all just right there. I would love to believe that that's what's going to happen. But I think it is crazy to think that he would do it against somebody like Max Holloway, who has just always been consistent. His main losses in his career are to the same dude 3 times. And I just don't know how you would take Conor because Max Holloway, I mean, and in the time that McGregor has been doing fuck all, Max Holloway has fought for the belt 3 times, you know, got the BMF. He even tried to challenge Habib on short notice. That didn't fucking happen. You know, whatever you want to say, a lot of things that happened for Max Holloway. And I really don't see that you could take Conor McGregor because of, and this is truly what I mean. I watched the McGregor forever, you know, for so far of what we've done, I was buying into it a little bit. Like, guys, maybe he's gonna come back and do it. And then I watched the Diaz 2 fight, and I watched him walk away for a good portion of this fight. You know, like Max has cardio. Max will continue. He's not Nate Diaz where he's just gonna go, fuck it, look at him, fuck off. You know, like he's going to chase you down and he's going to continue to put a volume on you. I mean, this dude has the most punches landed in UFC history for a reason, I'm pretty sure. Like, Conor McGregor is not going to have a good time if he thinks he's going to put his hands on his hip, look at the clock, and walk away. I think Max is just going to be able to break him down. And I think that's just unfortunately the case for Max Holloway in this way. And he's going to just beat McGregor down. And pillow fists or not, a TKO finish can be by volume, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of what you say track here. Let me bring in a couple of variables. One that sticks out to me is that this fight is at welterweight. Max Holloway, you know, I mean, this is a guy who fought 2 weights lower than that for a good amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, having to bulk up. I don't know if those recent pictures of him with the tubby stomach are actually accurate. They look like AI to me. I mean, maybe they are real. I don't know. But I have seen a picture of him floating around where he does look like a little bit of a pudge going up to welterweight. That being said, that's just, you know, a bunch of fluff on the internet. But it does concern me because Conor McGregor, on the other hand, is a dude who became a natural welterweight is the wrong way to say it. I would say an unnatural welterweight. If you recall, after his leg break, Conor McGregor ballooned up to the size of a tank, all muscle. Where did that come from? Well, you know, he would say that it was a doctor's regiment that was prescribed to him to help him with his recovery time. And I'm sure that there is some truth to that. However, all of those substances are of the juicy variety, and none of which are allowed in this sport. And as we know very well, when you are on a cycle, it does have residual effects. It does have residual benefits. I'm not saying Conor McGregor is the most tested athlete in the UFC. I mean, he is constantly being tested. He has never pissed hot ever one time. You got to give him credit for that. But we know that outside of the testing pool, he has been on the gear. That paired with being at a higher weight, there is something there. There is some, you know, just these are I'm giving you the variables. There is that. There is also something that I've brought up a couple of times at this point, but I will make the point. Conor McGregor comes with a tremendous amount of baggage in his life. We know this to be very true. However, going back to our review of the McGregor Forever docu-series, he did say something in that series that stuck out to me. He said that he is a person that sometimes has to give it all away to get it all back. So, he has to hit a somewhat rock bottom point to fight his way back in. I would posit that at this point, after the court cases, after the loss of Proper 12, after the his own country turning on him to an extent, that this
Mhm.
is a position that could be amongst those more rock bottomish areas that he has been in recent times. We have seen him not attend the White House card. We have seen him locked in training footage. I have heard from sources somewhat close to him that this has been one of his better camps. These are the variables. I also think that when it comes to Conor McGregor, that there is a difference of position than he has ever been in with the UFC. The UFC has was acquired by Paramount for $7.7 billion. Some would say that the UFC is a brand that has moved past Conor McGregor.
Mm.
That the UFC itself does not need Conor McGregor the same way that they once did. That Conor's position and bargaining abilities are no longer what they once were. That to me would signal a need in Conor to reestablish himself as the person that he in his own mind always believes himself to be, and what his rabid fan base still thinks is the guy from 2017. They want to see that guy here again. Now he wants to deliver that guy to them. Can he do that against Max Holloway at welterweight? These are the questions. Those are the variables. Chase, did anything that I say sway you in any way?
I don't think so. I think Max Holloway, listen, good camp or not, McGregor's been gone for so long. Even if his fighting style has never been a longevity game, he's going against somebody who has that ability. Conor McGregor, if he's 6 years removed and his cardio was at an all-time low always and after round one kind of deal, I don't see if we're expecting much more past round one for a dude who is not, it's one thing to stay in shape. You got to actively be competing to have that fight cardio kind of deal. I think round one might hit McGregor a lot harder than we're expecting.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta believe. Well, first of all, shout out to the 10-7 MMA for the very generous 1,000 jewel donation, brother. Very much appreciated. Thank you, and I appreciate the GOAT trophy as well.
I
The
appreciate
rumors.
you lifting 5 pound dumbbells.
I was going to say the rumors are true. I mean, just to put that out there as well. So thank you for acknowledging that too. That being said, when it comes to Hall, I gotta believe that even at the higher weight, that the speed in the hands, like you said, at least early in the fight. Like if it drags out into the later rounds, then maybe both of them end up getting a little tired with the extra weight on the frame. I got to believe that early on, the volume is still going to be there, as accurate as ever. I mean, like you said, not only the most volume landed in a fight for Max Holloway, but one of the most accurate. He himself, I'm the best boxer in the UFC. He lives up to that moniker. He makes himself that. It's not him saying that for the sake of saying it. It is him doing that time over time and only losing to the greatest. I mean, like, we lost to Volk multiple times. Volk is Mount Rushmore to a lot of people. Lost to
Yes.
Ilya, obviously a loss to Ilya. Now, maybe slightly reframed, but at the time, I mean, and even still, give me a break. Obviously, Justin Gaethje, also an elite fighter. It has now been proven. Ilya Topuria, an elite fighter as well. These are the greats of the sport currently. Conor was a great of the sport. I am always the first person to say 2017, 2018, 2016 Conor, that span, he was one of the greatest combat sports athletes to exist at that time. We are well past that. We are almost a decade removed from that, people. Now, you could say that he's made the adjustments. You can say that he is, he's gotten saved, he's a religious man now. All of those things, those are all great things. And I hope that they take him in his life to a better position than he has ever been in. But when it comes to combat situations, what have we seen in the last run of fights? We saw him get knocked out by Dustin Poirier in his last fight there before the leg break. Then we saw his leg break. We saw him submitted by Khabib. We've been seeing the cracks in the game for so long that I just don't know if I can put the stock in them not being there.
I agree. It is definitely hard to believe in somebody whose last performance that we saw was their leg being snapped in half kind of deal. Look at the other people who had gone through that. Tell me that they had returned back to their full form. There's only two others that you can really think of, Weidman and Silva. They never really returned back to their full form. You saw what, Chris Weidman returned to when he faced fucking Brad Tavares, guys. I mean, It's not pretty. It ain't pretty. It's unfortunate.
Well, I mean, and again, the one other element of all of this when it comes to Connor, coming back in the year of the upset, right? We've had tremendous upsets this year, right? I mean,
Hmm.
fights that have been people saying that they were in the bag have gone completely off the rails. Connor coming back with a point to prove, again, at the higher weight, maybe the early strength, able to do what Ilya has done. I mean, now that Max is somewhat compromised, I mean, he did get dropped by Justin Gaethje in the BMF fight, at least momentarily. Now knocked out by Ilya. Maybe the compromise is there for an early finish from Connor. If you want to go Connor, I mean, I think that maybe a round one knockout might be the way to go for that. But it's like, how do you contextualize it? I think my ultimate point. How do you contextualize this current version of Connor based on everything else in his life, based on everything else that has gone on in this sport, where we have gotten to, the fact that time marches on for all people? I don't know how you can be framing Connor at current era in any other way than where we are now as opposed to what you might have known about him before.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's unfortunately when it comes to MMA, this is somebody who is such a pivotal portion of what we have. And as you even alluded to earlier, the sport is kind of passed over McGregor at this point. There was a time where we were living in the McGregor shadow, but he was supposed to return and he didn't, and people really don't care the same anymore. I don't think. We're here and we get to see what the product is after being so far removed. But as we've seen in the documentary, this is not the only fight. He's gonna want to fight more. If as soon as he comes back, Connor's gonna want to book a fight before the end of the year probably. So he get it? Probably not, because that's not how they book Connor. But it's just unfortunate that it'll probably be coming off of another loss. So it'll be harder. It'll definitely be harder for him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, the thing that there is that nagging part in the back of my brain that says year of the upset, new man, all of these things, new leaf, and all of that. And if that does happen, it would be a tremendous thing to see Connor, overcome that, because, like you say, we were talking about it during the McGregor Forever review that we did. The lead up to the Habib fight and that era of Connor is lightning in a bottle is kind of not even really applicable. It was an atmosphere that surrounded him that has depleted over time. There's still a hardcore fan base that's always going to be there, but the sport is just in a different place at this point. This conversation that we're having right now is probably amongst the longer discussions that have been happening about this fight. It's not discussed the same way that it once was. I mean, back in those days, discussion groups, walls of text, people talking about McGregor fights and how they're going to go and all this. It's just a different time. Everything changes over time. McGregor himself changes over time. And even with all of the high quality preparation, the best camp of his life, it's too hard for me to say that this guy comes back and is suddenly 2017 again.
I agree. It's hard to imagine that somebody could take as much time off, but people have taken long extended periods of time off. If you remember, GSP came back, got his belt after what, 4 years? Like, I mean, he returned to the top of the game. Max Holloway is the top of the game, but he's not fucking, it's not like he jumped into Islam fight, kind of deal. The potential is still there. The thing that is the question, will Conor McGregor go on to win this and then go try to contend to be the first person to get 3 belts? Because think about what Connor has accomplished in the sport. He was the first double champion. Well, now he just saw somebody get called the GOAT by the boss man who potentially was going to get 3 belts. Connor's the GOAT, brother. He's back and he wants that 3rd belt. The double champ does
Versus
what the fuck he wants,
versus Habib's protege. I think that the narrative is tremendously right there.
It's either that or we get Ireland versus Ireland. I don't know what to tell you. One or the other sounds pretty fucking fun. But either
Yeah,
way.
yeah, and if it happens again, it'll throw this sport into a crazy tailspin if it does happen. I mean, it just all of a sudden everything that you know about the divisions that are adjacent to welterweight all get thrown into a complete tizzy when Connor comes in to upset the party. If it does happen, it's just too hard to say. It's just too hard to say. I mean, like, look, I Conor is a multifaceted guy, and we can leave all of his outside of the cage stuff aside for this. I would think it would be a crazy thing to see a prime Conor come back and to be the level of fighter that he once was. But the fact that he's even fighting at welterweight to begin with, to me, already signals that things are different.
Yeah.
So, it's like if you already can't replicate the guy that you were by coming in at the same weight that you were, how am I supposed to think that you can replicate any? It's just, there's too many of those types of thought processes for me to be able to back the McGregor horse. If he does pull the upset off, awesome. New era of a whole crazy bunch of shit to go on in this sport that'll give us plenty to talk about on this very show in the future. But until I see it, I gotta go with what you know.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Max Holloway is my definite pick. At first I was gonna try to sway myself and make it a little spicy, but do I want to be the guy who watches McGregor walk away with his fucking hands on his hips for 2 rounds while Max Holloway is, he's pointing at the fucking mat like, come on, dude, So I want to take Max just because I've always been a big fan of Max. Conor, of course, got me into the sport as likes of everybody else. Max Holloway's been here, done that. This dude is fucking good, and he always will be. He's one of the best of all time.
Absolutely. He is my favorite fighter. So I got to ride with him off of that alone. And I mean, not really, that's just a nice addition to everything, is that not only do I already think he's going to win, but I get to wear my Max Holloway shirt when he does.
Absolutely. I love it.
All right. Well, then I guess that is the whole damn thing, brother. That is UFC 329, McGregor versus Holloway 2. That takes place this very weekend, people. So if you would like to hang out with either of us for our individual watch-alongs of this card, you can find me for that at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
They'll be able to find me on youtube.com/@CP Smalls, of course. Friday mornings, One Championship. Saturdays, UFC. Keep in touch.
Absolutely. I am at Yama Show on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook. Follow your boy on all the socials. New computer is running like a goddamn champ over here. So we're going to be hopefully getting some more content out throughout the week and into next week after the big McGregor card here. So yes, Chase.
And the last thing, of course, everybody, to get your final fix of what you need to have ready for the McGregor fight, Thursday, we will be reviewing episode 3 and 4 of McGregor Forever. This is the most updated behind-the-scenes information that you have on Conor McGregor. So make sure to keep in touch. When it comes to the fight game, we are reviewing that. Just keep in touch. We got
Absolutely. Episodes 1 and 2's review is already out on both of our channels. You can watch that to get yourself primed for it. 3 and 4 later this week. We would love to have you for that review as well. YamaShow.com for all of your merchandise needs, not only for Yama, but for this very show. Last week's fights merch available on YamaShow.com. Guys, we appreciate you. Thank you very much again to the 10-7 MMA for the generous donation. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you to everybody in the chat. It's been a very active one, and we appreciate all of your thoughtful discussion here for this show. Appreciate all you guys. As always, you have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, and as always, fight on.